future of virtual motorsports is now. This September, the heart of sim racing beats in Chicagoland, as the Sim Gaming Expo takes over the Schaumburg Convention Center, September 5th through the 7th. Go wheel to wheel in our competition area, test the latest gear, meet top brands, creators, and celebrate with fellow sim racing enthusiasts. Whether you're a seasoned sim racer or new to the sport, this is your chance to be part of history. To purchase tickets and see the full exhibitor lineup, visit simgamingexpo.com.
Hello and good evening once again, everyone, wherever you might be, and welcome to the world's greatest virtual race course. For P1 Broadcasting, I'm Gary Gonzo, and it's race day in Indianapolis, and you are looking live at the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway, or just moments away from letting loose 33 of the absolute fastest sim racers in the world as they attempt to forever etch their name in the iRacing database as winner of the Open Indy 500. I'd like to welcome all of you to our race day coverage of the 9 p.m. Eastern session, the top splits, the fastest qualifiers on this Friday, May 16th, 2025. Joining me in the booth, it's a host of experts. Some of you heard last week, got a new name in the booth with us this week as well. Rejoining us from our fixed coverage is Jalopnik.com's Ryan Eric King. Also joining us again is Jacob Collins. He is the ambassador there of the Road to Indy program online. He is back here to talk with us. And also joining us from FTN Broadcasting. That's right, Fireball Talks NASCAR. He's been with me a couple times in the past for our previous Indy 500 coverage and also of the Velocity Online Racing INDYCAR Series. It is David Kreutz. So, gentlemen, welcome back. Starting with you, Ryan. It's good to have you back again. Welcome to Indianapolis once more.
Yeah, great to be back, and I'm excited for tonight's race. Obviously, it's a different field than last week, and the biggest difference, we're on open setups this time.
Jacob?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this shapes up. You know, the discussion going into this race was kind of the result of the infamous open fixed qualifying setup, we'd like to call it. Everybody kind of picked up on the same shop set. We'll shout them out because they deserve it. Team Conti setup performance, I believe. They might have a good race set, so there's still time. You can get one in before the end of this week. You know, pick it up. They're going to have the biggest sales pitch because a lot of the guys in this field are basically in on it because they were either on that setup or some variant of it. So
Right. Hey, David, welcome to the broadcast. Good to have you here.
I'll tell you this much, Gary. Very excited. I was with you last year, did a few of these shows, and when you look at the last 2 years for IndyCar and iRacing, our previous years Indianapolis 500s, those were celebration. They were a triumph. Of course, I think tonight is going to be even more so. I mean, coming back and seeing not only flourishing numbers, over 1,100 drivers registered for this split, but the difference between the guys and their top speeds, hundredths of seconds across 33 of our best. And that's one of the most exciting things to have. And of course, there's a wonderful booth that's going to be bringing to the action today. Gary, Jacob, and Ryan, experts in the field here. And I'm very thrilled to be watching, not just as a spectator, but seeing you guys work your magic.
Well, we are getting ready to go racing. We'll have the starting lineup, rows of 33 drivers getting ready to go racing. Here we go for tonight's starting lineup. And on the front row, it is two big swingers in the community. We got Phil Kraus PK and Alex VDS starting up front. And then Vasquez and Brophy on row 2. King Roberts and Alexander Russell on row 3. Jacob Oster and Munoz on row 4. Soria and Pablo Esp on row 5. I5G representing back in row 6. It is Brendan Lichtenberg and the man that I butchered so badly in the fixed race. It is Chris Van Nessa back on row 6 on the outside, and the inside is Alexander and Borda on row 7. Then we got Rashad Craig and Ruse back on row 8. Clindy, he's making his appearance here. We'll be watching him. Rinker on row 9. Rafi Eckert and the Brazilians back on row 10. They'll be cheering him on. And Tim on row 10 on the outside. Walker and Taylor back on row 11. Marquez and O'Meara on 12. Brito and Troiano. Those guys coming deep in the field for 13th. Green and Miller on 14th. Bonani and Dahl on 15. Vitor and Mana back on row 16. And the Cat, Daniel Durazo, back in row 17. Get ready to go racing. Remember, anything can happen at Indianapolis, and it normally does. Will we see someone from deep in the field, or will we see one of the favorites take the green flag and dominate, much like Juan Pablo Montoya did in 2000? Green flag in the air, and we are already shuffling and trying to go 3 wide as Vasquez slams the door going into 1.
He wanted to spend no time on the high side here. He went straight for that bottom as soon as he could get it.
And he is not letting Robert get down there at all. And here comes VDS to the bottom side. And Vasquez going to try to follow him on through. PK stuck up high into the north side of the racetrack, into the short chute down to turn 4. And the completion of lap 1, it's going to be VDS, Vasquez, or VDS, PK, and Vasquez, and then Robert Malechka. Rashad Craig and Ruse side by side through the short chute on the south end of the racetrack, and Clindy picking up another position, and he is following through Craig. I suspect those two might be working together for this race, but to the inside, here comes Tim. He's going to send it. We got 2 cars already to the inside going into turn 3 and 4. That is Malechka and Kraus. Not sure what happened. Are we answering black? No, we are not answering black flags. We are just going to the tail end of the field. So this is going to be a little bit of fun and games for Malechka and Kraus as they go all the way to the back, guys.
I don't know what the game is with them, but it seems like they might be feeling out what their setups are like for the entire weekend.
I seem to remember a race at Indy where Kraus dropped to the back and come the end of the race basically used a lap car to save fuel off of, essentially just to get the extra mileage in. So this could play into a strategy like that where they try to, hang off the back of the field, save a crap load of fuel, and make it work at the end.
Now, I don't know any other style of racing on this service that you can actually get away with doing that. Dave, do you ever really remember in any of the Coke races that you ever covered, someone going all the way to the back in a plate race where they would try to fall back as a strategy that far back?
Oh, not in the slightest. Seeing those two come down to pit road so quickly, you would have figured they were answering a black flag, as you said, Gary. This is perhaps the biggest question mark in this race. Betting maybe on a longer green flag strategy to get back up there by the time we have our second or third pit cycles on the day. I mean, you can see several seconds of a deficit, but it depends on how hard you push it. Everyone else, the 30-plus drivers ahead of them, are not going to be going full steam ahead just yet. So for Robert here, and of course him leading Philip Kraus, they could have that, of course, extra speed in their back pocket to pull them up in case they get desperate. But for the time being, we got to wait to see what happens in the next 50-plus laps, I'd say.
Of course, the bigger broadcast race is tomorrow, and some people are using this as a bit of a warm-up race for that race tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. So I'm sure that's what they're doing a little bit today. But, also no points here, just pride. So no harm, no foul, really, from going all the way to the back. Just making things a little bit more adventuresome for them as they go into the later stages of this race. Vitor way up in the high groove there. Rafi Eckert also, identical Leaner Energy cars. And there is Mohamed Omir taking a stab to the inside, right around Matt Taylor. Not a lot of movement. In fact, really, your biggest gainers are Omir, up 5 spots. We're kind of watching him right here. Also up 4 is Taylor. Up 4 is Matthias Tim. There is Matthias right there. Bill Kraus back into the field. Purple lap to 23.5. I tell you what, if this was a real race day in Indianapolis, the weather that we just had through, we'd be in the middle of a rain delay still right now as they'd be trying to dry this racetrack. But this is a virtual sense, and there is rain in the sim, but not rain in IndyCar. And, of course, they don't run rain races on ovals. It is your leader, Alex Van de Sant, Aaron Vasquez second, Jaden Munoz now up to third, Jacob Oster in the I-5G entry in fourth, Brophy in fifth. Soria 6th, Russell in 7th, Pablo in 8th, Borda in 9th, and Brendan Lichtenberg in 10th. That is your top 10 at the moment. Coming up on the completion of lap 8, starting lap 9 at the line. Thanks for joining us. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, and if you're not done so already, ring the bell so you're notified of future races. And if you haven't done so already, would like to do so, send us super chats or donate to the broadcast through our GoFundMe link. It is pinned at the top of chat. We gladly take your donations. We do this for free on behalf of the community. Any donation would be greatly appreciated. Watching Alexander Russell in the Satellite Racing livery. And the entry there he's down 1 spot to 7th, but he is tucked in line. And already these guys are already thinking about saving fuel.
Yeah, we saw it last week, just 1 week ago, where Kyle Clenworth managed to get a yellow and stayed out, ran 38 laps on the opening stint, and was able to essentially use that as his piggyback to a podium finish. So the earlier you get on an alternative strategy and be the first car or even the only car on an alternative strategy, the more likely it'll pan out for you in the end.
We have Omir and Rinker side by side, and they're not giving anyone of extra room. They were crowding a little bit on the straight. Rinker's going to have a run on the high side. Omir's going to stay down low. He's going to be getting a little bit of the dirty air from the 3 cars in front of him. Everybody down low through the corners. Remember, this is an open setup race. These guys, in theory, have been working on these setups for quite some time. Craig getting past to the inside by Matthias Tim. What do you think, Jacob? How long do you think a lot of these teams have been working on these setups?
When did the race end last year? That's about how long they've been working on it, to my knowledge, for at least a number of these guys. I know Marco Brazil, who we talk about quite often on these broadcasts. I think he straight up admitted, all right, get ready for next year already, as soon as the last one ended. So I would say probably around a year. While these cars are very refined, you got to have 7 different setups because you never know what the weather's going to be. You want something that's maybe better in traffic, better in clean air. So they're probably just dialing knobs every time they get some free time to get their set ready for the next out.
There are the weather conditions right there. 117 degrees on the track temperature, 70 degrees on ambient. Very light wind. I'm kind of surprised about that. Watching Seb Alexander, he is now in 12th. If you have a favorite driver in the lineup, shout them out in chat, and we will try to get them on the stream for you. What makes one time slot more prestigious than the other? Chris Albrecht asking that question. We watch him race in the Elite Racing League's Warriors for Peace IndyCar Series. I guess I'm going to guess that the one that has the most people that watch the broadcast stream is going to be the more prestigious one because you just have more eyeballs. I guess that's kind of what it's going to be. Whoa, Pablo on the low side. He just runs up on Soria. Nowhere to go down there. And he is getting pressed on the high side by Russell. And now he tucks back in line. Nope, he's going to tuck back out. Oh, we are missing a front wing from somebody. But they are forgiven promptly as it snaps back into play. No, we are not. That is Borda. That is a damaged car. He is missing. We saw a wing fly off, and I think he, in the sim, he might actually be missing a wing, but at least in my feed, he has been forgiven. But that left front wing plane does not look right as he is going to the back, and I don't think this is a planned move.
No, and it takes the smallest bit of contact to completely upset the aerodynamics on this car. You know, as soon as you get any bit of damage on wings, even in the Road to Indy cars, we have the same issue, right? You get any little damage on that wing, it throws the entire balance of the car off because that's what's generating that grip, especially in higher speed corners like we have here at Indianapolis. Let's
speed it up a little bit and get to where we saw the problem occur. All right, went back a little bit too far. Just easier to do this one. Here we go. So we'll watch from, yeah, he's already lost it by this point. And we're caution on the racetrack.
Oh, it's a big one. Up in the air. We got some air time.
All right, we're going to go back and watch that.
Number.
We are going to go back and watch that. I believe we got Clindy involved. Alan Berteau's involved. There you see where the wing disappears. It gets back to the live feed. We got trouble on the racetrack. And that's actually good for Borda. He comes to pit road, but we need to check out the incident on the racetrack. Big incident.
It looks like Mateus Tem got into the back of Clendy to kind of collect all that off.
All right, let's go back a little bit further. Watch this. Clendy into turn 3, and Tim, he just gets right into him. And there's Tim into the wall. Matt Taylor misses. Omir almost goes to the inside wall. A car backwards into him. Gosh, I'm not sure who it was.
It was Alan Berteau.
That had to be Berteau, yeah.
Yeah, with the Red Bull scheme.
Yeah, that was a pretty blatant running into by Tim because Clendy, he's one of 2 drivers last weekend that completed all 800 laps. That is not on him.
And right after the first part of that incident, Alan Berteau, Mitchell Ian Green got together, and the 23 ended up getting shot into the air violently as he ended up part of that first wreck.
Let's watch this from Berteau's point of view. Let's watch it at speed, and then we'll slow it down a little bit as we get closer to the incident. Okay, there you see incident in front right here. Let's watch it. Let's go back a little bit further. Here we go. Incident starting. You see right down here, right there. And here they come. And Berteau trying to slow down. And he gets tagged into your right. And then a car runs into the front of him. That car loses the wing. And he just backs into the thing. And he is not doing the flyover for the 500, but got some airtime today, whether he liked it or not, much like Kiffin Simpson did in practice. And his day is done, unfortunately, in the very early stages of this Open Indy 500. And guess who's leading now? Robert Malechka and Philip Kraus. Okay, so please tell me that Alexander Miller is okay, or Alex Miller is okay. Lithium Fox, well, yeah, we will go back, and there he is. He's in a slightly different, a newer livery than what we're used to seeing him. So, yeah, there he is. He's good. So, gentlemen, Ryan, thoughts on that incident? I mean, to me, and I try to be unbiased here, but it just kind of looked like Clindy got plowed into.
Yeah, it looks like Clindy got plowed into, but then again, we also had the second part of that incident where it was like, it seemed like Alan Berteau had checked up for the accident. He got run into as well.
Yeah, the closing rates on these cars are very just incredible, Jacob. And we talk about it all the time that, you know, the second that you see something happen in front of you, you've already gone a football field.
Well, in a lot of cases, you have the momentary reaction, and that's all you have the time for. So you just have to pick, right? You know, we saw it a lot last week in all the races we had at Indy and Oval Fixed and the Fixed 500s, where a lot of incidents just came down to momentary decisions of whether or not you were going to make it through it or get collected in it. And, you know, the less time you have to react, the harder it is to make the right move.
Coming to green at lap 19, your leader is Robert Malechka. We're riding with Alex Van de Sande. I want to illustrate a point here. This camera is about 6 to 8 inches above where the driver's head is. So this actually is a better view from what we were seeing, but the driver down into the cockpit cannot see that far ahead. Here we go, green flag in the air coming to lap 19, and they're already starting draft shenanigans down the front stretch.
Yeah, we'll kind of see the fruits of who got the best restart coming down the backstretch here. As those runs do tend to take a little while to generate. We'll see if anybody can mount a charge coming into 3.
It is Malechka, Van de Sande, Vasquez, Jaden Munoz, and here comes Jason Brophy taking a peek to the inside of Jacob Oster. Alexander Russell in 7th, Soria 8th, Pablo S. in 9th, and Lichtenberg in 10th.
Now, the thing we might not have caught originally is that under that yellow flag, Phil Kraus did come into the pits. So
yes,
between him and Malechka, they're essentially on opposite ends of the field now. You know, Rob's all the way at the front and Phil's all the way at the back. Maybe they'll meet in the middle again at some point and start mounting their charge back to the front. But we'll see how that mixed strategy kind of pans out for them.
And they're bookending the field right now. Back up a little bit further. Watching the battle here between Walker, Eckert, Mata, and Andrew Marquez. Right ahead is Taylor and Rinker. And once again, if you're enjoying P1's coverage of the official Open Indy 500 here on iRacing, make sure to support us by smashing the like in the video. Subscribe to the channel so you miss out on the next race. Also ring the bell. Today's broadcast is presented to you by Tech Topia systems. Watching this battle further on back here for 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th in the mid-pack. Meanwhile, back up front, we've got around a little, we got Vasquez, who's now snuck into the battle now. So P1 and P2 are probably working on, or P1 and P3 are working on team comms. So we probably have Malechka and Alex working on team comms together. But Vasquez not part of that discussion. So he is doing a little bit of brute force tasking up there to try to get himself in the middle and to get a couple positions.
Well, some of that could be kind of planning the overall race too, right? It's, oh, we'll let this guy go or get in between us to try to get him to kind of show his hand wherever he's going with his race strategy. Maybe he wants to try to push the fuel number, pit earlier, or get track position that way. You know, it's basically the 100 yard a second chess match that needs to kind of play out over the course of these 500 miles.
And who said football is a game of inches? And here we go as Malechka, Vasquez, Van de Sant still atop 3. Munoz with the Williams Esport entry. He is in 4th. Oster is in 5th. 3 cars currently on pit road. Showing Bruteau out. Clindy still on pit road. Green and Temmie also with meatball flag still on pit road. Extended stops. 30 cars, 29 cars on the racetrack now still. So if in chat, if you're going to the real Indy 500 this year, let us know. If you've been to Indy 500, for real, let us know about your experience. Let us know how many you've been to. Tomorrow is the first
day. Looking at our running order here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Looking at our running order here, Gary, top 10, if you look at those qualifying numbers, they're matching up real well with where everyone started and where they're currently running. 9 of our top 10 drivers qualify in the top 10. The only exception is that pole sitter and Philip Kraus, who's gone the opposite direction in 26th here. We mentioned the team game just a few moments ago, and I got to wonder, is qualifying position going to supersede the team orders as the race goes on just by the nature of the race? Or are you going to find more of those team guys linking together no matter what? Because it looks like right now, if you started up front, you're in a real good position to keep it that way.
What do you think, Jacob? You running a team. What do you think the team guys are doing?
Well, oftentimes, at least here, what I've noticed is that the fast teams qualify at the front, so they're already next to each other to begin with, and they can kind of control the race how they want to control it. You know, it's basically a game of whoever can get their lead car out in the front and kind of play the rest of the cars behind them to their hand. You know, we talk about how you can block a lot of clean air in some situations. You know, you put your car in just the right spot where the car behind you can't really position in a spot where they can pull up on you. They have to kind of let out of the throttle, maybe take a later turn-in point to try to stay in behind you, and that puts them at a risk of being attacked from the car behind. So it's, you know, you got to think it just as much as the cars in front as the cars behind you, and the more cars you have to work with on your team near the front, the easier it is to kind of bunch up the cars behind you.
Rafi Eckert in the wall off of turn 4 last time by. Seems to be okay now. There's PK to the inside of Durazo getting that pass. So move PK now up to 23rd. Meanwhile, Vasquez to the front around Malechka. And if you noticed one thing, and again, you were here with us on last Friday's broadcast, Ryan, this field now, by nature of the open setup, is really starting to spread out a lot more than what we saw the fixed setup race spread out. It took a long time for the fixed setup race to kind of spread out.
Yeah, it's clear you could tell that the gap between each of the drivers is just slightly wider last week, and a lot of that is down to just the nature of an open setup.
And in places challenging as Indianapolis, what do? Do you set up for low downforce so you can be fast down the straights, or do you set up for a little bit more downforce so you can handle well in the corners? It's a trade-off. It's a challenge. Where do you give up the performance to be better than the other guy? And some of these teams up front have been working on these setups, as mentioned, since the end of the last race last year.
It is important to keep in mind, too, is that we are on a slightly hotter track with slightly more wind coming from a different direction this week. That also kind of plays into that. And obviously, the fixed setup will probably play, quote, the best in the weather provided, or at least that's the intent anyway. So it makes it harder to get that wider spread that we're kind of seeing tonight. You know, obviously, a lot of this comes into maybe some of these guys did set up for more clean air running. Maybe they were expecting it to string out a lot, so they would get to a front of a train and be able to be faster that way. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out as we get further into this race, if it stays green, if, you know, that varying pit strategy comes into play to try to cater to people's setup strengths.
I think Rafi Eckert is either DC'd or dropped out, so I'm showing him not in the car on the racetrack anymore, and 29th position, so now 28 cars still running. Of course, tomorrow is the first day of qualifications for the Indy 500. The real Indy 500, that'll be tomorrow. Today was Fast Friday. Interesting Fast Friday. Those looks like a lot of the drivers this year had their hands full with the hybrid. Something that these guys don't really have to optimize their setups for yet, because right now the coding for these cars do not include the hybrid. Correct, Ryan?
Yes, it doesn't include the hybrid, and the way I've seen the hybrid deployed in real life is kind of tweaked the dynamic of racing at Indianapolis, and we saw it during the qualifying runs today, where different teams had different strategies on how to deploy the hybrid. Some used it to sort of level out their qualifying runs, limiting their highs, but also raising the basement for their performance. And I would like to see it on the service, because it would really put more control in the hands of the drivers, especially in situations like right now where, you know, you might not want to save fuel. You might want to use the hybrid boost to force a couple passes.
Jacob, it's supposed to be coming. I mean, they keep saying that eventually we'll see it on the service. Do you think that will really alter a lot of these setups that a lot of these teams have, because it's going to change the, as Townsend Bell likes to say, the center of pressure?
Well, it depends on what all they do, right? They've talked about doing an updated physics model for these cars. If they opt to put the hybrid in at maybe a different time or alongside that, it's kind of going to be that moving goalpost a little bit, which, as we kind of saw this week, the car on the service right now is pretty close to solved as solved gets. It's been around for a while with the kind of the final form with the aero screen on it. I think the biggest thing will be is if it turns into a balance issue, as how much does that impact kind of the fringe cases, right? People talk about how there's a couple tracks on the service where they've kind of found something that only really works at that one track. So it'll be things like that I think will probably play bigger factors. Obviously, you know, it ultimately depends on how the balance of the car changes too.
David, you guys on the NASCAR side of things kind of experimented recently with getting the new car. How did that work with a lot of the NASCAR open setup guys? Did they really have to go back to the drawing board and redesign a lot of setups, finding that with the brand spanking new car, that a lot of the stuff they learned on the old car didn't really translate over?
Well, if you're talking about the next gen to the Gen 6, I mean, it was a completely different ballgame when it first released. The first night it came out, which was in sync with the eNASCAR Fox Sports races during the COVID pandemic, didn't even drive like a stock car. In fact, I heard a lot of people comparing it more to the open wheel cars like what we're driving right now. and that was a complete refresh. But generationally, I mean, iRacing as a platform, it's always been geared toward that sort of oval and stock car racing background with the papyrus racing lineage of code in it. So it's a generational thing. Usually when iRacing gets the cars dialed down on stock side, it all comes down to prior knowledge. I think it's very different now when you think of what IndyCar is doing, and they always say soon when it comes to their new projects for iRacing. So when it eventually comes around, when that soon clock stops ticking, and they actually bring it to life, I think the hybrid will be more not that generational thing. It's going to be going back to the drawing board. But that's my prediction, just based on what I've seen.
I was kind of listening to some drivers at the Speedway when they're trying to use it. And they talk about when the unit is full, it doesn't create as much drag. When the unit is empty, it creates drag. And then when they charge the unit, that causes drag as well. It almost sounded like some of them were kind of using the recharge in the corners. And there's Russell and Munoz side by side as Russell's got underneath now as these tires are really starting to and these setups now are starting to come into their own here at 21 laps into the stint. But it almost sounded like they were using the opportunity to recharge as also an opportunity to slow the car down a little bit in the corner to help it rotate a little bit more. Was anybody picking up that watching the broadcast coverage? Is almost using it like a little bit of a dynamic braking, kind of what they do in with trains and stuff, right? They're using the engine to kind of break itself. In this case, they're using the magnets of the hybrid to kind of slow itself down. Did anyone pick up on that?
Yes, and it's sort of a nature of having the system in the car because it does add weight, so it does lower cornering speed slightly. And sort of to compensate, instead of, lifting the throttle like you would normally do, you would just hold the regen open in, say, 1 and 3, and then you would deploy it on the exit of 2 and 4. So you sort of make up for the extra weight that you're carrying by just deploying the energy.
And Phil Kraus. I can't tell you how many cars he's passed because he started at the front of the field and it says he's down 15. But he did start at the tail end of the field on his last restart, and he is now in 16th, and he is making it look easy. If his goal is to use this as a test session, mission accomplished so far. He's not to the front of the field, but he's in the mid-pack in no time whatsoever.
Yeah, we would have missed about 7 laps ago. Rob finally came to the pit lane on his own, so he's all the way off the field, about 35 seconds back, running by himself. So that's not going to be very good for fuel economy, but it will be interesting to see if he's able to work something out here with just when the cautions may fall later in this race, maybe later in this run in particular, where he can cycle out depending on when those cautions fall.
He pitted 7 laps ago, and so he's already 7 laps into the stint. He went 34 on that opening stint for him, which is pretty standard Robert Malechka modus operandi there. If you see Robert do less than 30 on a stint, you got to wonder what's up. He likes to save fuel, and he saved a good deal of it. And again, if he can go another 30 plus on this one, the idea eventually is to shave 1 stop off at the end of this race. And if you can, it kind of go 5 laps longer, kind of past that magical 30 lap mark every single time. You're looking at 6 or 7 stops in this race anyways. So if you could shave off, 20 laps, that's, kind of a half a stop or 1 stop there at the end of the race. He's kind of on pace for doing that right now.
Yeah, even if he can't get an entire stop in hand, just by saving that much fuel, that last stop is going to be exceptionally short.
Alex to the inside again of Vasquez going into turn 3 at the north end of the racetrack. Jacob Oster up 4 spots at 3rd. Jason Brophy in 4th. Alexander Russell in 5th. Soria 6th. Pablo in 7th. Brendan now up to 8th. Jaden Munoz back to 9th. And Chris Van Den Essa. Hopefully I'm saying his name right for all those that were watching last week. Chris is now 10th. As he is up 2 spots. Andrew Ruse And the number 8 car back further in the field. There he is. He is up 5 spots to 11th. Seb Alexander. He is very hopeful about his day in the early stages. He's got a teammate with him with Rashad Craig. They're 12th and 13th. Matt Taylor in 14th. Kraus now 15th. Rinker back in 16th. Walker 17th. Omir 18th. Marquez in 19th. And the Cat, who started shotgun on the field, up 13 spots to 20th.
The one thing I kind of noticed is when Brendan about a lap or so ago made the pass on Van den Nies and Munoz coming into turn 1, about immediately afterwards, he was just gaining, tenths of a second at a time down the straightaways on the cars in front. So I'm wondering if he's maybe got, a longer run car, where the longer we get into these runs, the more it's going to come in and the cars around him may fall off. That may put him up the order a little bit. Maybe he's saved a bit of gas behind them and now is going to come out in front, make up a bit more time through that kind of strategy call. But it'll be interesting to see how that plays out for him, considering that, he's running about where he started. He's only like three positions up from his starting spot. But,
he was the fastest car in the top 10 that time by a great deal, actually.
Yeah, so you've got to wonder if maybe he's opening the envelope, pushing a little bit, seeing what he can do maybe later in the race when it comes down to that. Like what is cars capable of doing? If it can close a gap by itself, he's already built out a sizable gap to Pablo Espez behind him. So be interesting to see how that plays out for him.
Member of I5G, of course, that team has a great deal of success in fixed and open Indy 500s here. So no surprise that they have themselves a setup with special sauce on it that can get them up into the top 10. And again, he is pulling away from the group behind him. Thanks for joining us, everybody, tonight. We appreciate it. Friday night, wherever you might be. Open Indy 500 here on P1, presented by Topia Systems, your leader. Alex Van de Sant, Jacob Oster now up the second as Aaron Vasquez scheduled stop coming to pit road right now at lap 48. He is 30 laps on his stint, and he is going exactly 30 laps on this stint. Not one lap more. As he drives through a whole host of spots to get to his own stall. Up on the jacks. And if you've been watching the Fox Sports 1 or Fox Sports 2 coverage of Indy 500 practice, Will Buxton actually asked, how do they jack up the cars in IndyCar? And I've been explaining that on these broadcasts all the time, and I'm so glad that someone else explained it on a broadcast.
Yes, we use technology here, Will.
I always found it funny that for the one sport that uses technology for absolute everything, oh, car back into the wall, coming off the corner, that's Pablo to the inside, we're under caution. Careful, careful, careful. And that was a snap loose condition. And we'll go back and watch that, but you kind of saw it at the top of the screen as we'll set it up a little bit further back in time. And he's really, guys, he's by himself. I mean, he has a little bit of a cushion to a car behind him and a little bit of cushion to the car in front of him. So this really is not a result of dirty air per se, would you say? Maybe just not staying on top of the tools because of the difference that the car in front of him not as close as it used to be, maybe? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Oh, no. No. Too low going into 3, or too low going into 2.
Yeah, he rode the curb, and you watch kind of the classic tail snap. High siding it is it's sometimes referred to, and that's a hard one to catch, especially the more aggressive you are on the tools and clean air, especially.
That is kind of like Kiffin Simpson today a little bit, without getting airborne.
Yeah, very similar accident in that matter. Yeah.
Yeah, very similar. Very similar. In fact, Kiffin got down onto the concrete there a little bit, where the track actually, and a lot of drivers have been kind of flirting with that concrete. They want to get as close as possible to it because you're making the track as small as possible. But you've seen in incidents before. Specifically, I remember an incident during the race a couple years ago when Connor caught that concrete there where the rumble strips used to be on a restart. He spun the car around there, so it will unload the car, and that's kind of what happened. He got too low going into two and caught the bottom and got the car loose, unloaded it. And now it's a perfect time for everybody to come to pit road, but a good time for Aaron Vasquez because he's going to cycle all the way to the front.
And that is the gamble you play here, right? Is you can come in a bit earlier than the bulk of the field, get some tracks position, maybe make up some spots and some time through the doing it the smarter, not harder way, doing it in the pit lane rather than on the track. We'll see how that plays out for him, especially as these cars behind him are roughly on the same tires and fuel load as him. He may be able to stretch his run a little further than he may have been able to before, but be interesting to see how it plays out.
And we'll reset the field here in just a moment. We'll give you a close-up of Aaron's car. You'll like the sponsor because he's had access to the special sauce for quite a while, considering that Team Conti setups that you could buy. He's a member of Team Conti. So I would imagine he's been testing this setup for quite a while.
You know, as they say, there's no better advertisement than winning, right? So
right.
Being at the front.
Win on Sunday, sell on Monday, right? That's even in stock car racing, they say that. Back in IndyCar racing, they used to say that. So, yeah, that's for sure. Your leader is Aaron Vasquez. The cars in front of Vasquez, which is Vitor, Mata, Bonani, excuse me. Those are all going to get the waiver round per IndyCar rules. The leader always brings the field back to green. I was watching an Indy 500 replay. Maybe it was from 95. And this a good example of why you want the leader to bring you back from to green under caution is you don't want a car that just happens to stay out that cycles up front. Not saying that any of those guys that were in front of Aaron are lacking any pace or anything, but in real IndyCar racing, you know, there could be someone that stays out and they're actually lacking pace. And let me throw a name out. Hiro Matsushita. Oh geez, yeah, King Hero. He actually brought the field to green one time. I think it was in the 95 Indy 500. And he was leading the field to green, and I thought to myself, that's why they have the waiver round rule. I don't think you want drivers like Hiro Matsushita bringing your field, back to green. Because it really
what you want.
Yeah, well, I mean, what it does is it starts, and it kind of did it in that race too. It made a very dicey restart because it kind of bunched the field up a lot. But we're going to go green this time. Here coming to lap 53. Your leader is Vasquez. Oster second. Russell third. Brophy fourth. Soria fifth. Munoz, Van de Sant, Van den Nessa, Lichtenberg, and Seb Alexander, your top 10. Here we go. Just past the lap 50 point. Green flag in the air. Second caution of the day.
Oster looking to the bottom down the backstretch.
Oster clears. Now, Brophy was thinking about it. Brophy didn't have the greatest fixed 500. Bit of a rough day. Definitely having a better showing here. Vasquez says, nope, I'm going to do a little swapping at the front with you, and I'll go back to the lead in one. Biggest gainer on the racetrack at the moment is the Cat, Dan DeRazzo. He is back in 17th spot. He is up 16 positions. He started 33rd, and just a reminder, no driver in real IndyCar competition at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway has ever won from 33rd starting position. I'm sure everyone knows at least one driver that almost won. Who's the one? Go ahead and give me the easy one, Ryan.
Oh,
The best finish for a driver that started 33rd.
oh, I don't remember.
Jacob, you got it?
Boy, howdy, I'm clueless.
Dave, you got to know this one, right? You were at the track. You probably saw videos of it.
Oh, goodness. That was a year ago.
Scott Goodyear. Scott Goodyear, when he came up short to Al Unser Jr. in 92 in that very, very cold race that year. He started 33rd. And the other driver that started 33rd and almost won was Tom Sneva. So two drivers have started 33rd and have come close, but never 33rd. The farthest back that anyone has ever won the 500 is 28th starting position. Ray Haroon won their first Indy 500. We watch O'Meara to the bottom side of Taylor into 3. Taylor was getting the dirty air from Craig there. Craig wasn't helping out Taylor any, and he's not out. Oh, and he put Taylor into the wall. We flow right up into it.
Yeah, Matt Taylor just followed in his coattails and got the dirty air, and you run out of track eventually.
Yeah, especially that high line. You run out of room really quick. And Louis Meyer also won his last Indy 500 starting in 28th in 1936. And, of course, that's when they ushered in the drinking of milk.
You know, looking at that grid question, the only one race that I could think of was Mario Andretti, 32nd to 2nd in 1981. I figured you were going to mention the closest on the back row as well. I wouldn't have gotten Goodyear, that's for certain.
Well, for a while, Andretti won that race. For a while, he did. He won from the end of the race, so June, July, August, September, October. He was a winner for 5 months. I think it got switched in October. Oh, Brophy! Kraus on the inside, going into the inside wall up at the north end of the racetrack in the short chute. Let's watch that again, and it's on Listenberg. So a little super team on super team fratricide up at the north end of the racetrack between PK and Brendan.
I'm surprised that Kraus kept it out of the wall.
He did, and he's keeping it going, so he's going to... Okay, he hits the reset button on his race yet again. I mean, he still has 140 laps to do it, guys. I mean, that's plenty of time for PK, right?
Oh, always has a chance.
So if anyone's wondering what happened back in 81, that was actually the win later went to and originally went to Bobby Unser for win number 3. Bobby, during the last caution of the race, as he was rejoining the field, passed a good number of cars, not all of them, and merged in with the field well up into the pack, where he should have just fallen in line at the back of the field. Mario started to do it and then stopped doing it, and I don't think he gave those positions back, which made his appeal a little sus. But at the end of the race, it was Bobby Unser. Uncle Bobby took the checkered flag. But back in those days, USAC did not, the race was not official until the following morning when USAC posted the final standings on the timing and scoring office door, literally, with tape. It was paper and tape on a dot matrix printer back in the day, and they would post it to the door. So if you watch any old broadcasts of the Indy 500 back in the 70s and 80s, you would always see him say the results are unofficial because they had to wait to the next morning for USAC to certify the race and to certify the results. So the next morning they get there and they find out that he got a 1-lap penalty, and Mario Andretti finally gets his second Indy 500 win. And so they ran Mario Andretti through all of this pomp and circumstance of winning your race, getting the picture with the trophy, getting the picture with the wreath and everything. And then
the banquet.
And the banquet, the whole 9 yards. And then it was a court case by Penske, who Bobby Unser drove for at the time, and they got the results reversed. So who says races are decided on the racetrack? You thought the August Indy 500 back in the pandemic was the latest the Indy 500's ever been decided. No. It was decided back in October of 1981. Kraus catching that spin might be a top 10 moment. I agree to that. Somebody can clip that out and send it to him. Meanwhile, back up front here at lap 63 of 200, it is Vasquez, Oster, Russell, Brophy, Soria, your top 5. Brophy to the inside. He has been working on Russell. He's just not able to pull that pass off. And you see what he's trying to do. Watch him down as Oster pops out to get the pass on Vasquez. He's popping out. Brophy's popping out to get the draft from Oster to try to get the pass on Alexander.
Well, that's all fun and good until you get to the corner, and then now it's dirty air for preventing you from turning.
Right.
And then you have to fly backwards. That's the tricky part, too, is you don't know just how long that window is going to be open until you do start getting tight and plowing up the track, as you kind of saw Jason shoot it back about maybe a quarter second behind Russell now and gaining him back on the straightaway down the front stretch again.
Alex Van de Sant to the inside of Soria. Alex has got dirty air, pushing on a car and just pushes up in front of him and gives Soria a slide job, but he clears him. Move Alex Van de Sant up to 5th.
At least they were on the straight by that point and probably not still turning.
Either way, I don't think Soria liked it too much.
Well, no.
No.
But, you know.
Let's ride with Brophy as he tries to follow through. Contact with Alexander. How do they catch that? And then Van de Sant just gets a spot on the high side.
You know, we were kind of talking about it earlier. Russell is, I believe, a current Coke Series driver, and those next-gen cars do have kind of that snap oversteer moments to them, especially when you make contact like that. So, you know, the stock car stills do pay dividends in open wheel occasionally, and that seems to be one place where it's paid off today.
Probably one of the fastest twitches in his sim racing career he's ever faced. He was 210 miles an hour at the point of contact.
That was beyond a death twitch. But they caught it, and Brophy only lost one position as a result.
And cue the Jaws music. Robert Malechka has entered the top 8.
Didn't. Now, let me ask people in chat if you've ever raced against, and I'll ask you guys too, you've raced against Robert. Do you feel the Jaws music when you're ahead of Robert, or do you feel like that poor rebel pilot going down the trench in Star Wars with Darth Vader behind you, knowing you're just going to get blown out of the sky?
No. It's the rebel pilot. You just know it's coming. You know he's just going to blow right past you.
What do you say, Jacob?
Well, between all the power slide cars, you know, Phil Kraus, especially on the road courses, and Malechka here on the ovals. It's very much a Thanos, I am inevitable sort of thing that I have in my head. Of, you can fight all you want. You can put your car in the perfect spot. Think you've got them covered off, and they're gonna find a way around you anyway. So you might as well just let them go.
James Walker on pit road. I'm not sure if that is a scheduled stop for him. 17 laps into this stint. Not sure if he had maybe some contact with the wall. Yeah, I think maybe he did have some wall contact.
Yeah, multi-car incident. It was with the number 8 right around him at the time. So bringing the tape back, that was through turn 1 with Andrew Roos.
Ooh. Yeah, we'll go back and we'll watch that real quick. And we'll reset it a little bit further. So here they go through the corner. And car up top, clean air. Car down low, dirty air. And slides right into him. Bam! That is big hit from both. So we got 2 cars, at least 1 car on pit road there. Back up front, it is Vasquez, Oster, Alex Van de Sande, Russell, and Brophy, your top 5. That has really not changed too much since we've restarted. If anyone else is in chat and you want to share your... Oh, sorry. Russell almost up into the wall, into the short chute. You want to share your Robert Malechka story? Is it more of a Rebel pilot, or is it more of the shark the swimmer getting ran down and chased by Jaws? Rebel pilots. In fact, I think, is it Luis Gonzalez Nunez? Is he doing our moderating in chat? He might be able to ask that as a question. When Robert Malechka is running you down, what do you feel like? Is it the swimmer in Jaws or the Rebel pilot in Star Wars? I'm sure Robert will appreciate this.
And immediately, Tristan Fortson chimes in, Rob bullied me at Auto Club.
Look, man, Rob's bullied a lot of people. As we like to say, if you don't like to be bullied by Rob, get good. Or as Ryan, as Ric Flair used to say, to be the man, you got to beat the man. Woo!
Yep, and RM3 is most certainly the man.
Right. Oh, RM3 into the wall off of 2! Oh. That was a big hit. And I think maybe we just jinxed him. Let's ride with him and see how that car is tracking. That was a big hit. And he's losing ground to the car in front of him. I'll see if he gets it back. Let's see if the racing gods favor him. He has a little bit of offset in the wheel, but that might be because of the setup.
The real testament will be is how quickly does Van de Nies close in, if at all.
Well, I think Chris has got to smell blood in the water on that one. I mean, there's not very often that, in an open top split fastest qualifier race, there's not often you smell blood in the water at all. But when that blood in the water is Robert Malechka's blood, I think you got to pounce.
Well, we talk all this talk, but it doesn't look like Rob's car's moved like an inch since the contact.
No.
Seemingly, it wasn't quite as hard of a hit as maybe it looked. You know, sometimes you hit the wall just square enough where it doesn't do anything. You know, that they did an update recently where they basically said straight up that the cars will endure a bit harder of hits than before, which maybe this is one of the ones that it accounted for, and he's gotten lucky and can keep carrying on.
Clindy's checking in from the medical center in chat. Kraus hit Brendan and spun because he was on the phone. Kraus is on the phone?
Oh my God.
Look, man, I tell you, texting and driving in the state of Indiana is illegal.
Well, fortunately, I believe Phil Kraus is somewhere in the Florida area. Maybe that's not a crime there.
In the virtual jurisdiction of Indiana.
There we go.
Yeah, I don't know what the laws are like in Speedway, Indiana.
There's about 2 times a year you don't really want to mess with the Speedway Indiana cops. It's 500 race day and Brickyard 400 day. You just don't want to mess with the cops there in Speedway Indiana. Just listen to them, give them a break, follow their commands. We're 29 laps into this stint, at least for Vasquez. He should be coming to pit road about any time. He pitted on 30-31 on the dot last time. There's a little bit of caution in there, so he might be able to go a little bit deeper, but we expect him to come to pit road anytime. Everybody else behind him is about 3 laps away from the magic 30-lap mark for the stint. We're hopefully maybe see green flag pit stops as this field is really starting to get strung out here as we are now approaching the 200-mile mark as Russell going to the high side of Alex Van Desant, looking for that clean air now, late in the run. Alex says, I saw what you did up there. I'm going to go ahead and aero block you. And here comes, scheduled stop as we expected, Aaron Vasquez.
You know, we sometimes talk about how we run out of things to talk about some of these races, and we are now receiving hockey and basketball scores in the all teams chat.
Yes. The New York Knicks, my beloved Knicks, have effectively secured their place in their first Eastern Conference Finals since 2000.
And who did they lose to in 2000?
No comment.
I'm going to go on a wild whim and guess the Pacers.
That's the last time we went to the finals, baby. Yes, it is the Hicks versus the Knicks, and it's going to be the Racers and the Pacers on race day. Race day here at Indianapolis will going to be a huge sports day. You get up, watch the race, and then after the race, you could go to Conseco Fieldhouse. Back in the day, it was old Market Square Arena, and you could watch the Hicks versus the Knicks.
Yep, and that'll be game 3 of the series.
There is some old video, and I think it was during the bump day that Al Jr. and Emma were having problems coming up the speed. And I think it's on YouTube somewhere, and I forget one of them. Somebody's on the track making a qualifying attempt, and it might have been Scott Sharp, I think. And Scott, really was kind of a nobody driver at this time. And midway through his run, there's this huge roar from the crowd, and they just posted like the score of the game that the Pacers were winning at the time or whatever. So, yeah, it's a big deal when the Pacers, I mean, this is, you might think this is a racing state, right? In a racing city. Well, it's a racing city, but it's a basketball state.
Without a doubt.
And speaking of basketball and on the rebound, it's Phil Kraus. He's in 15th now as he's trying to pass Dan DeRozzo, I think, for about the 4th time today. The Cat is up 19 spots to 14th position.
He's just getting the most practice to make the one when it counts, right?
There's Borda on the high side. He's racing with a new front wing. He's now up to 17th spot. Jacob Oster on pit road, scheduled stop. And Van de Sant now with 0.5 of a second lead. Might as well be 5 miles at this point. And Alex has saved a great deal of fuel. He is 32 laps into his stint. Russell, so is Russell as well. Brophy 33, Soria 33, more on pit road. Rinker, Ruse, and Marquez all on pit road.
Got a couple cars still extending this run just that little bit further. I believe we'll see Seb Alexander coming in this time, amongst others.
And here come the leaders. And I think he said Seb Alexander coming in this time. And he's bringing in Rashad Craig, his teammate, as they are all lighting him up. And we got contact at the end of pit road. And that is Seb Alexander missing a front wing as he got into the back of the 22. That's Jaden Munoz. I don't know. I wonder if we might have damage on Munoz's car as well. But that's going to be a 5-second penalty. Not necessarily a penalty, but that's going to be a replacement of the front wing. That takes about 5 seconds for Seb Alexander. So that's going to be a little bit of longer stop. And unfortunately, Rashad, his teammate's not going to be able to hang back for him. And we see Jaden Munoz pulling out of his stop with no additional hold. So he is good to go. No damage on his car. So Seb, a 13.4 second stop to replace a front wing. And guys, it's just little mistakes like that that's going to take another half a race just for Seb to possibly recover from. I mean, that's 500. That's 5 extra seconds. That's 500 yards or more on the racetrack.
Yeah, and that could be the difference of being, right on someone's rear wing or drifting on the edge of their toe.
And here comes Mohamed Omir to pit road for a scheduled stop in the Coors Silver Bullet Robbie Gordon livery from the 97 Indy 500. He slides through his stop. Now he goes up on the jacks. That is going to cost him some critical time on pit road. And while he's on pit road with the long wait now, here come the leaders. It is Van de Sant and Russell. They will pick up the lead with Omir on pit road.
And this will hopefully be our first complete green flag cycle of pit stops, which may make you kind of think about how these drivers are having to adapt to getting pit in correct. As we saw with Alexander and Omir, just getting to the box is about the hardest thing you can do here.
Well, they actually talked about it a little bit today on the broadcast on how difficult, and when I said the broadcast, I'm talking to the Indy 500 practice, how difficult it is to stop these cars in a super speedway configuration, because these cars really aren't meant to stop, really. I mean, they're not meant to stop fast. They're not meant to stop, like they do diving into turn one on the Indy road course. They're not supposed to do that here on the oval configuration. And one of the reasons why is the brake calipers are so far apart on these cars, because you don't want to invite any type of friction whatsoever on those brake calipers as these cars go 3 Gs into a corner and they start leaning on the suspension. And the other thing is, as the brake discs are so skinny on these cars, they're not really meant to have great stopping power like the brake discs do on the road course cars.
Yeah, they're so small, they don't retain heat well. They're basically ice cold all the time, unless, you always hear the drivers have to prep their brakes before they have to come in for a pit entry, because if they don't, they're just going to immediately lock up.
And Jacob, one of the things I do normally when I would spot for drivers is when we would coming up to a pit stop, I would always say, adjust your brake bias or be prepared to hit the brakes, and they grab, or just be aware of what's going on when you hit those brakes. When you come to a green flag pit stop, are you always aware kind of when you hit those brakes for the first time that they might actually lock up on you and send you to the wall?
Well, I think we saw about every road racing car Tuesday night miss the pit lane and hit the barrels at Iowa because we all thought we could take it just that little bit further, and that little bit further is too late. I was fortunate enough not to actually hit the barrel, but it still costs you a lot of time on the track that you don't want to lose, especially at a track like Iowa where you go 2 laps down heading to the pit lane just about regardless of where you are in the field. So yeah, it's definitely one of those things you got to prep for it early and be ready for it. And if anything, it's always better to be slower on pit entry than to miss it. So got to take what you're dealt.
Dave, we haven't heard from you in a while. Anything that you're seeing out there? Any drivers you've been watching that have been making their moves on the standings here?
You know, we were just talking about those pit stop numbers and how those extra seconds matter a whole lot. I'd like to circle back quickly to Seb Alexander. 5 seconds, and that's 5 seconds on pit road. When you stretch out onto the racing circuit and those drivers get to accelerate 5 seconds before you, I think it's a little more than 500 yards, in fact. And you can see now he is 3 racing seconds behind Rashad Craig and losing time. There's Mohamed Omir, who made another pit stop mistake, and now they're coming together. And even with the guys who've done their pit stop cycle exactly as they wanted, these drivers are so many laps spread apart now, I would say close to 10 at the very most. It's going to take the entire cycle to really have them shake it out. So if you do it correctly and wait that long, a mistake is just that much worse. I was going to say that Seb Alexander was one of my underdog picks for the race. I really like the paint scheme he's got going on, which is going back to 1979 in Arrows with Ricardo Patrese. But so far, one minor slip up, and it's cost that beautiful blue, or rather black, red, and gold machine. A little bit of blue on the top of the windshield.
We're at lap 92 of 200. We're just shy of the 250-mile mark, halfway point here. I just changed the overlay to show you gaps between positions. And there you see the top 8 are fairly close together. They're all within the draft envelope of one another. Remember, the draft envelope on these cars extends about 1.5 seconds. Threatening to lose the draft to that lead group is Jaden Munoz in 9th. And here is Jaden. He is leading a group of cars, a group of 3, actually, and those drivers are all pretty big hitters in the community. We got Brendan and Kraus back there, and just out of reach is Rashad Craig. But right there, Craig's 1.1 back. Munoz is 1.3 back from Van Den Nessa. If he loses 0.2 of a second more, he's out of the draft altogether. And those 3 are going to have to work together to kind of reel back in Van Den Nessa in the top 9, really, the top 8, if they want to be part of this. Otherwise, they got to hope for gaining time on a pit stop, which we're, in this case, 20 laps away from, or we hope for another caution. And guys, when we're this far and spread out, cautions are few and far between.
Yeah, pretty much like we would need a single car accident to really see a caution.
Don't count that out of the question either. This tends to be the point in the race where people start settling into a bit more of a rhythm. You know, the field's strung out. You're kind of locked into wherever you're settling now. But that's also the time where you kind of get a little too comfortable sometimes. You know, you slip up, maybe dive the corner a little too tight. You know, you hit that curb. You saw it earlier off of turn 2 where a car hit the inside curb and got a little loose on the exit, and around you go, and that's all it takes, right? And he wasn't anywhere near another car, so it, you know, as much as you'd like to say, you know, we're not going to see a caution because the field's so spread out, you could be the caution because you're the car that dives it in a little too deep and spins it around.
Ryan, you've raced in a number of these 500s, and Jacob, I know you have as well. And you're right, you're at that part, the dog days of the race, as I call it, the dog laps. In the middle of the race, this is when people, that if you've ever been to the race, you've been, and Dave could speak to this, you've been to the 500, right? Early in the race, everyone's on their feet, and then at some point, you know, about 30, 40 laps into the race, everyone kind of sits down, opens up the coolers, pops out the drinks, starts eating the sandwiches, going to the restrooms. Maybe they have to go for another track dog or a track burger from the concession stand or something, but no one's really paying attention. And it's the same thing for the drivers, guys. You've been in these fixed 500s as well, and especially when you don't have a spotter helping you that's constantly in your voice kind of telling you what's going on. You know, when the body fades, the mind falls behind, and you're like, you know, 200 you're like 100 laps into this thing, you're, another 100 to go. And that's where the mistakes happen, right? That's where we miss our point and we turn in too early and we grab the apron, or we turn in too late and we smack the wall on exit. This is when the mistakes of the race happen. You're right. Well, we are just shy of the halfway point. Thanks for joining us. This is P1's coverage of the Open Indy 500 9 p.m. time slot, fastest qualifier race. I don't know if this was the overall top split. So if you're just joining us and you're wondering if this is the actual top split, there is the fastest qualifier split, which this is, and then there could be possibly for those that opted not to qualify. All those guys are ranked in another split based upon their I rating, and that could be a higher strength of field race for that race. And then, of course, if both happen to coincide, I guess we would call that the ultimate strength of field. But, yeah, sometimes in some cases you could see a fastest strength of field and a strongest strength of field, and then, of course, if they're combined, the ultimate strength of field. And I'm not sure if there's another one, but I know in the last Friday race there was a 5K that was made up of the non-qualifiers. Today's strength of field actually is not too bad. Not too bad at all. We got I think what we got here, a 43.78 tonight, so not too bad. We had over 1,120 drivers register for this first time slot. I didn't see how many splits we had, but it should be right around 40-ish splits, give or take, I think is what we determined. Yeah.
So we've got 35 splits. There's one split that just barely peeped this one out of the non-qualifiers. That's at a 44.53 strength of field. Looks like that field features Tony Pizarro because I'm following his account. But yeah, so occasionally you will get that kind of weird discrepancy. We saw it last week where we almost tuned into the wrong show because we got the
right.
one confused with the qualifier split. And we're like, hey, wait a minute. These guys didn't qualify.
I don't see the pole sitter in this race. Yes. And again,
well, I believe we would have watched the pole sitter win the race last weekend with Hamilton Akabuezi.
Yes, we did. And again, this is this is a unique race on the iRacing service. Not only is the top split determined by your qualifying speed, but your qualifying is actually a 4-lap 10-mile average that you must perform during the week. You could re-perform it many times as you want, but you must perform it during the week if you want to do the qualify portion of it. This is the only race that does this on the iRacing service. Everything else is done. Oh, contact into the wall. We're under caution, and that has taken out 2 drivers. That has taken out Oster, and that has taken out Russell. And that was just a little bit of Alex Van de Sant sliding up, and he wasn't clear. And it's a racing deal. I'm not blaming anybody.
Yeah, right rear tire to left front wing, and Russell's car basically exploded into that wall, and Oster had nowhere to go.
Yeah, we'll watch it from this angle, and then we'll go back and actually watch it from Alex's point of view, and you'll see what happened. Oh, that was just awful netcode that reached out and grabbed Oster. So let's just set this up. Here's Alex, right? And he's going to get a run on Russell here, and he's just going to go right on the outside there. But look at who's in front of him right here. These 2 cars, and they're within the draft envelope. And he's getting dirty air from those 2 cars, and that scoots him up the racetrack. And just that is what causes that little bit of contact. that little bit of scoot up the racetrack that he had. And as pretty much, I'm going to guess from dirty air from those cars. I could be wrong. But again, when you're at the front, guys, Jacob, I mean, you could talk about this as you're in a number of fixed setup races. When you're at the front, your tools are entirely different than what they are when you're back in traffic.
Yeah, if you're right behind the leader, or even a car behind the leader, it feels like you're in a different world compared to 4 or 5 cars back in the line, where in some ways it feels you have to sit and wait. Your options open up so much more at the front. You could put your car in so many more positions, but it also adds an increased level of danger.
Oh, geez. Vasquez and Brophy were lucky that ghosting seemed to be enabled for quite a ways before they got out of pit road, because they were literally one on top of one another. I don't know if you can see that coming off of pit road. Look at that. They are into each other's cowlings, literally.
Well, you're able to go through the other cars until basically the end of the pit lane, and then they give you the leeway of, okay, your cars are technically stuck together, but we'll let you tear them apart without causing any major issues. And that's kind of what we saw with Brophy and Vasquez there.
So, interesting strategy at the front of the field, gentlemen. Matt Taylor staying out for some track position. And is he going to come to pit road this time? Is he just wanted to get a little TV time? I mean, I can zoom in on him if he wanted that. And it looks like Van de Sant coming to pit road again.
Maybe he wants to cycle to the back of the field, maybe use that as an opportunity to save some gas. I mean, it also helps that, you get your fuel a little later, your tires a little later. You can try to conserve them just that little bit more. It's harder here because the track's bigger and you burn up more fuel trying to catch the field, but, can never hurt, right? You're not going to lose a lap coming in a lap later unless you wait way too long and pit when the green comes out. That'll happen too. My 500 last week, I went a lap down, having to dodge a car crashing off of turn 4, shot into the pit lane well above the pit lane speed limit, had to serve a stop and hold penalty, went a lap down, cycled the whole race with maybe 10 to go. I managed to get back on the lead lap, only to run out of gas trying to make the pit lane.
Oof.
On the green flag lap. So.
Oof. Well, it looks
I made
like
it back though.
Looks like Alex Van de Sant came and got a little splash of fuel there. He wants to cycle to the back, so it's going to be Vasquez going to bring him to green here at lap 105. Then we have Brophy, Malechka, Soria, and Brendan Lichtenberg. So that is going to be your top 5. Van den Nessa now 6th, Kraus in 7th, Munoz in 8th, Omir 9th. And Rashad Craig 10th. And on the Omir watch, he is up 20. He started 24th. He is up 15 spots. So he is one of your biggest gainers of the day as well. I know we got some Omir fans in the chat. Coming to green flag at lap 106. Everybody's good for at least another 30 plus here on this stint. Next round of pit stops are going to be right about 135, 140, somewhere in there. So let's settle into some racing. Vasquez, Brophy, Malechka, Soria, and Lichtenberg, your top 5. And that last 3 in that row are they're pretty close together. They're going to start battling off of 2. Kraus around Van den Nessa. Here comes Mohammed taking a look to the inside on Munoz. He's gonna clear. Not quite. It looked like it, not quite. Here's Brendan. Here's Kraus. 3 wide, to the front, to the lead. PK, your leader.
Now we want to talk about video game moves. That felt
there you go. Yeah. Yeah, someone's been playing, was that Kart Fury? God, that was an awful game. That was...
Looks like Jason Brophy will move up on Vasquez, moving him to second. Kraus with probably a half-second lead right now. We'll see how if that closes back up once Brophy's back to the point behind him here.
And while we're at it, if we're going to shout out your favorite IndyCar video games from the PS1 era, go ahead and shout them out in chat. I don't think Nigel Mansell's racing was. I think that was on the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis.
Yeah,
I don't think it made it to the Here's Brophy and Kraus. And again, I think these guys are teammates. They're going to completely be working together. And if they get another car up there to join them, Malechka is a teammate as well. It is quite possible they might also be joined by the I5G gang in the same comms as well. I don't think the gloves come off until the 1 o'clock race tomorrow, really. That's when the gloves come off for everybody. And I noticed the sun is behind the clouds right now. 123 on the track temp, though, but we are overcast at the moment.
Partly cloudy, 4-mile-an-hour west wind is, I believe, what is being advertised in Sim. So
122 on the track temp as we saw Robert Malechka with a little bit of the Robert wiggle down the backstretch.
It's been about 105 laps now since Kraus and Malechka decided to go down to the back of the field intentionally, and even though it took them a long while to get up here, and for Kraus it did take those 105 laps to get back to the lead, so far the race has worked out for the both of them. They're back in their qualifying positions of 1st and 5th respectively, and they're back in sync for all intents and purposes. And maybe the cautions worked out just right to get them back in that position, but experimenting for the rest of the weekend perhaps, and so far it's been
Go ahead, keep going.
Well, so far it's been a successful test, but you can see they're really racy as they're coming through these corners here. And I was wondering about this about 20 laps ago before our previous caution. We're getting to the middle of this race, those dog laps as we described them previously, but are we going to see the clock ticking and the tension rising, prompting more exciting racing up in front? As you can see there, Mohamed Omir side by side again.
He's
sliding down
to the inside. He noses the wall, and there was some interesting driving games going on as he toes. He goes ahead and withdraws to the pit road, but as he was trying to pass Brendan, notice that Robert was going to. It makes me wonder if Robert and those guys are actually working with the I5G guys, which they do sometimes in some races. And again, this being a bit treated as a warm-up race for that team, I got to think that for at least for those guys, maybe I could be wrong. They could be, working with each other, and the gloves are on. But I think the gloves come off tomorrow at the 1 p.m. race. And you notice Robert was going low in the corners, kind of giving that dirty air a little bit to Omir, kind of helping out Brendan a little bit. And I saw that at least on at least 2 or 3 different laps. And it looks like Omir was cranking on that weight jacker and just gets loose off of 2 and goes to the inside wall and has the tow. And his race is effectively done for one of our biggest gainers of the day. So it is Kraus and Brophy, Vasquez, Soria, and Malechka. Go ahead.
Part of that might be too is that you've got multiple cars in front of you, and you lose that air on the front of your car, kind of keeping it planted too. So it just causes that right rear to get even more loaded up, and then you're just stuck sliding and can't catch it past the point.
Got Mike Rigney in chat saying, Kart Fury, someone is aging himself. I age every time I talk about Indy 500 with all these people because I don't think... What's the first... Okay, let's just go around the horn. The first Indy 500 you remember as a child, Ryan?
98.
98, okay. I was at that race. Jacob, your first Indy 500 that you remember as a child?
Probably 08 when Dixon won it.
Was that race? Okay. Dave, first Indy 500 that you can remember?
Oh, goodness. It was 2020.
Say it again?
2020.
2020.
The first one that I actually remember watching was 2020. The first time I knew about IndyCar was the movie with the snail, Turbo.
Talk about a movie that people kind of just forgot.
You know, I will watch that movie over Driven any day. The best.
I saw you talking about that online, yeah.
The best IndyCar movie is actually the one with the snail, I think. The best IndyCar movie is the one with the snail. Driven is awful. Completely awful. Call me wrong. Prove me wrong, you know. But that was an awful movie. Awful. Okay, so my first Indy 500 that I remember was listening to the 1982 Indy 500 on the radio. The first one I went to was the 1986 Indy 500. So yes, if I'm dating myself by saying Kart Fury, I better. I could probably date myself even further. Probably say my first racing game probably was Indy 500 with the paddle controller on the Atari 2600.
Oh, yeah, my first IndyCar game was actually Kart Precision Racing, the PC game.
CPR, yes, where you could actually race at the old homestead.
Yep.
And that came out, and then we're watching a battle here between Van den Nessa and Van de Sant. That came out right around the time I was playing IndyCar Racing 2. And that was kind of supposed to be the big competitor to it at the time, and it was okay. It wasn't that great, but I remember I got it. I remember hooking up my Thrustmaster T1 wheel, the non-force feedback had the spring loaded to the center. You know, I remember that. Playing that. The graphics were very. But it was the only, for the longest time, it was the only sim that, or a racing game that you could race at Homestead on the old Mini Indy configuration. I think my wife was telling me that she used to play on the Super Nintendo, no, the regular Nintendo, Al Unser Jr.'s racing. His racing game. Oh, getting a little hairy back here with Miller and Durazo. And Van den Ness has kind of fallen back to that group as well. And again, looking at battle here between Miller and I get over saying Antonio's name right is Bonani. Hopefully I'm saying that right. "16 laps into the stint. We're about halfway through for a lot of these drivers.
And shout outs to Durazo and Miller. They started close to the tail end of this field. Durazo was the last car into this race on qualifying time, and Miller started 28th. They've clawed their way about halfway through the field at around the halfway point. They only need, You only need a couple dozen more cars to go, and they're right at the front.
Right. And really, I mean, they have plenty of time to do it. I mean, we still have another 80 laps to go, and a lot can happen here at Indianapolis. Any number of things can happen here at Indianapolis.
From Durazo down to Kelly Dahl. So that's Durazo, Miller, Bonani, Marquez, and Dahl. The average starting position for those 5 is 28.6, and they're all running about 10 positions up on that. So pretty solid gains so far for that bunch.
Little drive to survive. Oh, Durazo got real close to the wall there in turn 2, or off of turn 1. Excuse me. Now down the back stretch. Miller taking a peek to the inside of Van Den Nessa. Just, again, with no help of the draft, it's tough to pull that off. He is going to. Oh, he slid up, and it caused Van Den Nessa to have to roll out of it. Miller gets the position. Not the way he wanted it, but that's the way he got it.
Well, and you got to think at what cost. Van Den Nessa's not going to forget that he did that for Miller come the end of it, and he'll try to pull something similar, potentially even more tight come the end of the race.
Ryan, how long do memories of drivers last?
Forever.
You remember every wrong, but all the rights just seem to go out the window.
I was getting ready to say that. My follow-up to you, Jacob, is do you remember the rights at all?
Well, you do sometimes.
Shorter than being a teammate.
But you forget about them about 10 seconds later when they do you wrong again, and then it's like, well, what the hell?
Back up front, it is Kraus and Brophy continuing to swap the lead back and forth, and they are slowly inching away from Vasquez, but Vasquez just kind of holding his line, not panicking. Probably back there saving some fuel now. Kraus finished second in the Butt Kicker Series last fall. Got himself a nice little payday and retains his pro license for next season when the Butt Kicker Series takes off again next year or later this year. Here is Brophy giving a wide berth on this pass to the inside into 3, pulling that off. Meanwhile, behind, Vasquez and Soria, just interesting parties, watching the action ahead. And really, they're good to work with one another, because if they start working against each other, I'm going to say that opens the door for Robert Malechka to get a pass on him.
Well, there's that, and then there's the train of cars behind Robert. The rest of the top 10 or so is kind of built back up to Robert at this point. So he's kind of the lead car of that next train of about 6 or 7, maybe 8.
Whoa, Rashad Craig sends Jaden Munoz way up high, still to the inside in turn 4. He tries to send him up high again. Munoz holds his line and gets back in line, not having it. Guys were giving each other a lot of respect and a lot of room there. Caution back, big wreck off coming off the corner, and unfortunately it's Durazo. Oh my goodness.
And as the yellow flag came out, Philip Kraus is pinned up against the wall, and Jason Brophy got past for the lead.
Oh.
Just got too high, hit the wall, and around you go.
I think 2 cars involved. And I think Matt Taylor might have got in it as well. Is that Andrew Ruse? No.
I think it's James Walker.
That is James Walker, as he is just really innocent. Watch this. Walker coming off the corner. And I think, who was in front of Durazo? We'll have to go back and watch that. I think they slid up in front of him, and they slammed the door on him. And they just ran out of room. But watch poor Walker here. Walker just... Here comes...
Yeah, it was Van Nessa.
Boom. And just a light tap from Walker. And Taylor, okay, just misses it. But, yeah, Van Nessa. Watch this. We'll try to get another shot here. And he kind of comes up late there. Aero blocks in the wall. I'm not sure if he's really aero blocking. I think it's just how it looks. And then again, Durazo on the high side getting a run. And he didn't really take him to the wall. But I think Durazo might have ran out of room. I think you're right, Jacob. So everyone's going to come to pit road. This is a scheduled stop. And if we look at it from getting to the end, this is going to be interesting. If we're at 130 now, gentlemen, then that takes us to 160. It takes us to the 400-mile mark. But it doesn't get us home. It only gets us to 190, right? So we're about 10 laps short at this point. Mathematicians, what do we think?
Well, if you run 30, that puts you around 158. Another 30 puts you around 188. That still means you got to stop twice. So
Okay.
unless you could stretch it another 6 laps apiece, which is like just outside the window I've seen guys do 35 under green. You could maybe, we saw Kyle last week with the 38, but that was due to a timely yellow, being able to save under caution.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can risk it and try to run a big run like that and hope the yellow comes out and stretch the fuel that little bit, but you're counting on a lot, and it's hard to commit to that. So you may see some differing strategies, especially when it comes to that fuel number.
All right, so track strategy and the track position again this time for Matt Taylor. Does he stay out this time, or does he come to pit road like he did last time just to get some TV time out there? And that's what he does. And Kraus coming to pit road. Nope, he does a pump fake. He comes back out, and he will stay out and pick up the lead. Taylor stays out an extra lap. Getting the waiver round, I believe that is Andrew Ruse. Ruse will rejoin the tail end of the lead lap. Currently, there are 20 cars still running, 20 cars on the lead lap. Durazo, Walker, O'Meara, Russell, Oster are still on pit road getting extended stops, but still showing the meatball flag. So safe to say their days are probably done. Maybe they want to try to get a repair and get a lap or two in to pass a couple positions. Never give up, never surrender, but we are here at lap 130. We are at the 325-mile mark. So well into the second half of this race. Interesting cautions abound today. But those you expect to be at the front have been at the front. Kraus, Brophy, Vasquez, Soria, Malechka are going to be bringing us to green. Pace car off, coming to green at lap 131. And we still have a couple of stops still ahead of us. Green flag in the air. Here we go. Munoz underneath Brendan, side by side through the I am so tongue-tied now. It is late in the night now. Tongue-tied through the short chute.
Try saying that 5 times fast.
And I wonder how much racing we're going to see, or how much are we going to see people online doing a fuel save now?
Munoz around the outside off of turn 4. He's going past every car.
He's not waiting. I think we got a little bit of a... Yeah, he goes right to the front. I think we have a little fuel save going on.
Yeah, that looked too set up for him to do that.
Now, should he just go ahead and push like hell now? I mean, or is he going to force Kraus to keep up?
I think Kraus knows better.
Yeah, and I'm getting deja vu to last Friday's Fix 500.
Well, I'm getting deja vu to about every Indy race I've been in or watched in the past 2 weeks. It comes down to a fuel save. People start fuel saving, you bunch the field up, and a number of times the field can't handle being bunched up that much because you're nose cone to wing, however you want to measure it, and eventually one of the nose cones gets into the wing or a tire or something, and sends the car into the stratosphere, and then everybody's got to try to fly around it, which, as we know, is very hard. Football field a second.
Here comes Sam
Let's hope this
Alexander.
one plays out.
Well, this might be a chance for some of these drivers a little bit further back that has been kind of struggling in the mid-pack to maybe make their way forward and get some track position.
Well, that's a big gamble too, right? You've got a very heavy fuel save, as somebody pointed out in chat, and you could do a 35-35, which is theoretically possible given what we've seen in the past, but that's like the upper limit of fuel economy at the speedway here in the sim anyway. So it's going to be a tall order to expect, half a dozen to a dozen cars to all make that fuel number. So certainly to make the field, you've got the talent to pull off any number of things. It's just, do you want to take that risk and potentially be short on gas and miss out?
Everybody kind of in line. We'll take a look here at intervals back from the leader. What we got for last lap? So we tuned it down a little bit pace-wise. 216, 216, 216, 216. That is last lap, 216. That doesn't seem that much like they've turned down the wick. A little bit. Maybe I would say that at this point, even with full tanks and new tires, they'd be closer to 220s. But you're right, the biggest part of this portion, if we're going to be all in line and we're going to do a fuel save, is when you get this big run on the car in front of you down the straightaway. It's when the car in front of you rolls out of the gas. I mean, we talked about it before, and I'll say it again. I mean, effectively, when you roll out of the gas on these cars with all the downforce, even in this super speedway configuration where you're still dealing with hundreds and maybe 1,000 pounds of total downforce, it's like hitting a brake, and the car will just automatically slow down. And then when you slow down, the car in front of you behind you doesn't know you're slowing down, and then they just pile into the back of you, and that's when the big wrecks occur. So we'll continue to monitor as we are in a bit of a fuel save. 2:15s for those laps. We'll see if they come by and equal that mark again.
Another thing to keep in mind is we do have multiple fuel maps at our disposal here to potentially save that additional gas. That will kind of play a factor. You might hear people start pulling the clutch too on corner if it gets real desperate. I don't know if we've quite seen that yet today, but there's a lot of different options you have in this car, especially when it comes to fuel saving.
Well, let's ride with Mr. Fuel Save himself, Robert Mileska. Let's listen and see what happens here as he exits off of 4 and has a run on Soria down the front straight. Does he just kind of roll out of it? Goes the 4th gear.
There's one thing I've learned is that the guys that are fast in this car can also do it while saving way more fuel than you can. So it may look like he's, full rip, full tilt, but he may still be saving an absolute metric load of gas.
That's the old fuelsave.exe script. I joke.
Whoa.
I joke. It's the same script that Scott Dixon runs.
Yeah, he just, slips it into his ECU.
Yeah, right into the Cosworth firmware, and he's got the extra map that drops it even lower into fuel save. Map 99 or whatever he's got on that thing.
And there is a car. Oh, and Seb takes a shot to the inside of Roberts while we're watching here. I think Seb's going for a little track position here. Might as well.
Just in front of our leaders now is the first guy to go down for the next set of pit cycles, Andrew Ruth. He went in at 138, so he's going to be right on that borderline to make it a one-stop race from here if he goes in again on or past lap 170. But he's out there and alone, and looks like the leaders now, Jaden Munoz and company, are catching up quick.
So Ruse on 138. Yeah, that's really close to 170 is that magic number. That's the one that we pretty much, and I've said it before, and I kind of joke. It's the Nick DeGroot strategy, right? It's always with 30 to go. You make that last stop, and you should be good to go. And he's right at that edge. And I tell you what, Jaden's gonna like this. Because Jaden's been in a position where he hasn't been able to really save with the aid of the draft. Now he can save with the aid of the draft. Now, how long is he going to follow Ruse? And how long is Ruse going to hang around up front?
Yeah, because it's kind of in Ruse's best, It's for the best that he do everything he can to try to stay on this lap.
And let's not throw shade at Ruse because, he did start 16th. He is the 8th ranked driver in terms of Oval I rating in this race. He's in the upper third of the field in terms of I rating. So he is no slouch of a driver. And I'm willing to bet in just about any other top split race he'd be the number 1 or number 2 guy. This one he just happens to be number 8, but still a top third driver. I mean, he knows he can lead this group. So we're not throwing shade at him any. And again, if you're not familiar, here comes Seb again, and he came alongside and pulled alongside there of Jose, but couldn't quite pull that pass off. So. Remember, we are lined up according to qualifying speed in terms of how we started this race. But number-wise, numbers are given according to your Oval I rating. And the number 1 Oval I rating here in this race is Robert Malechka. He is back in the 7th spot there.
Logan Edwards, Narc Brain, chiming in chat, saying, good to see a fellow Texan in the lead, and says, unfortunately, Jaden's presence means I can never be the best Texan IndyCar driver. Don't we have a guy named Big Tex? Is that AJ Foyt? That sound about right?
Super Tex. Super Tex. Yeah, well, and not just AJ Foyt. I mean, Johnny Rutherford. He's from Texas as well. Lone Star JR. 3 Indy 500 wins. In the year of my birth, 1974. There we go. There's my age, Rigney. Here comes Seb Alexander to the inside. He pulls off that pass on Soria, but he is stuck with the dirty air of Brophy to the inside of Vasquez. Vasquez gives him a little bit of a twitch in room. Now they're back in line, coming off the corner, almost into the exit wall, off of 2.
The wall's part of the track until it breaks the tire.
Another famous IndyCar driver that from Texas that unfortunately doesn't have any Indy 500 wins, Lloyd Ruby. I don't know if anyone remembers that name. He was from Texas. And Vasquez said, you know what? I've had enough following line. I'm going to go take a peek underneath PK. Oh, I think Brophy had to check up a little bit because that caused evasive action from Seb. Seb tucks back in line.
I believe we've been joined by the one Mark Murphy.
Mark Murphy done with the AMA race at North Wilkesboro. We go from a tiny track to the big super speedway. And Mark, your teammate, Seb Alexander, just moved up to 4th.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the guys at Indy Alliance and Rogue Racing were super excited about the race setup. We kind of chased it a little bit in qualifying, although we put all 8 of us in the top 100, which that's a huge achievement, and don't overlook that. But Seb and Jesper and Clindy, they've all made it in the show tonight. Looks like Seb and Clindy are here. Rashad's here. They're having themselves a heck of a good time, and I know we're really high on the race setup, and so it's good to see Seb running up front. But my goodness, Vasquez!
Oh. PK threw major shade at Vasquez. He saw him coming, got down there, and just laid on an aero block.
Yeah, and that's something that, Vasquez, that's not a name that you normally see in these circles. And we're getting down to the last quarter of this race, Gary. I'm looking at the names at the top of this field. Of course, Jaden Munoz, that's a pro-level driver. That's a guy that has a ton of experience. At the highest levels, Phil Kraus. I don't think he needs any introduction.
Oh, we're going to go three wide at the line, into one. Alexander on the outside. He just holds it, sticks it. He's going to keep it. Brophy back a position. Soria still fighting off of 2 in front of the Sweets. Down the backstretch, and it looks like Vasquez is actually going to help out Soria a little bit, but it's not going to pull him alongside. Seb goes and gets a position. Now he takes a look to the inside of Vasquez, and he's going for 3rd.
Yeah, but he's going to get that dirty air. You're running the wall of dirty air, and I don't know how long these guys have been out on their current runs, but you get older into these tires, Gary, and my man, it gets awfully tough to make that bottom stick.
20-lap old tires right now as we're about, believe it or not, it feels like we just stopped, but we are about 10 laps away from possibly looking at earliest pit stops. We're not going to make it to 170, although one person might be able to, and that is Ruse, who is leading this group, but he is burning the most gas, and he is on the tail end of the lead lap. Here comes Soria. He's going to send it to the inside of PK, but he's not going to be able to pull that pass off because Vasquez goes to the bottom, and Soria picks up that dirty air.
Yeah, but what I was talking about was experience, and that's experience with Phil Kraus. If you're not a person that races these cars all the time, you're not going to know all of the delicate little nuances at the front of this thing.
Soria slams the door on Kraus before getting into 1. Yeah, you're right. The iron sharpens iron in these cars. I keep saying it. The more you drive these cars, the more you get out of them.
Well, and you've got teammates involved up here. You've got Phil Kraus and Jason Brophy, and they're working together. The old team talent side of Hyper Slide right now. They're working together to try to pull Brophy past Seb. They've got Malechka right behind him, Van de Zandt. Those guys are all working together. And Seb's got to know that. And they're also working together to get each other up to the front. You've got Brendan Lichtenberg. He's another big name, but he's kind of alone in this fight right now as far as waving the I-5G flag. Of course, they've got a ton of wins here, but Seb's help is Rashad Craig, and that's 6 spots back. The other thing is that when it comes down to it, here's something I want you to watch for. When it comes down to it, when it comes down to show and tell time, even if it's an IndyCar regular that you may not normally team with, an IndyCar regular is going to help another regular as opposed to help an interloper. And so that's something that I want you to watch out for as well.
So a bit of a handicap match going on right now for Seb Alexander, kind of surrounded by the enemy. But, hey, Ryan, you watch wrestling like me. What do you do if you need to even the odds a little bit in a handicap match? You bring a steel chair. Maybe Seb needs to do a little bit more brute force fighting up there if he could save the fuel.
Yep, everything's legal as long as the referee doesn't see.
You almost sounded like Penny Hardaway's mom from the movie Blue Chips there. You were awfully close. It's not a foul unless the referee blows his whistle. Right?
No ref bumps here in IndyCar racing. Anyways, we're at 1:53, 25 laps into this stint, as everyone has just been kind of minding their P's and Q's. And Jacob, we talked about it. Everyone's in very close proximity. And, it just takes one little crack of the throttle at an inopportune time, and we're all on top of one another right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw it earlier between Seb Alexander and I believe it was Jaden Munoz coming to the pit lane, right? These cars being a lot closer means when it comes down to time to pit, you're going to be closer to each other coming into the pit lane, making it harder to gauge just how late you can get onto the brakes and make it into the pit lane without causing yourself or anybody else any damage coming in.
From a NASCAR kind of fan and perspective from you, David, how frustrating is it to be watching a fuel mileage race in IndyCar? You got to be like, come on, guys, do something. Do something.
I think my opinion kind of goes up against the popular grain. It might not look the most exciting in terms of drivers passing each other back and forth, but there's this style of racing that really brings out the most focus in a driver, even when it looks boring on the racing circuit. It wasn't really the case when we had 100 laps to go, of course, because you had still a lot of time, but we're right on the wire here. You don't want to make those errant moves that'll get you into trouble right now, but you also want to figure out whether or not you can make those passes and cut that distance. Maybe it isn't the most fun to watch without any context here, but this is what it's all about in terms of that clutch racing. And it happens in stock car racing. It's very hard to see it come down to the wire in endurance. You have 24, 12, or a long period of hours anyway. But in that sense, what we're coming at right now is perhaps the most exciting outcome it could come down to, given the cautions and all of that. I mean, it would be great to see a photo finish or something of that nature, but you can't guarantee that. It's coming down right to the fuel numbers. Pit stop strategy has to be executed perfectly, and there's no guarantee who of any is going to do it.
Yeah, we are on the heels, the precipice of green flag pit stops here, and not just any green flag stops, but, I mean, you're in your final two of the day, and you do not want to do what Scott Dixon did a couple years ago and come to pit road and speed on your final stop. We're in that kind of part of the race where one little mistake like that is going to cost you. But in terms of exciting racing, it might be an exciting race here before we get to these pit stops. Is later this year, in fact, in June. Murph, you want to talk about the P1 600 here a little bit before we get to pit stops?
Yeah. So in the spirit of the Open Wheels 500, or the Diesel 500, that it is called now, we've established a second crown jewel for the IndyCar community, which is we've got the race in Indianapolis, and nobody's gonna challenge that. So we've added a second here at P1, and it's going to be called the P1 600.
Oh, car contact! Whoa. And that is Matt Taylor to the inside wall. He made hard contact, but iRacing forgave him. But I'm not sure if we have other damage unseen.
Yeah, that was a pretty good lick. But no. So we're gonna do a 600-kilometer race, 186 laps at Michigan. Knockdown, drag out. It's going to be open setups. There is now a total of $400 on the line for that one. $100 to the winner, and so, we're looking. I'm looking forward to that one. I'm looking forward to calling it. I do not want to be on the ground when that occurs. We've got 25 entries for it. So if you want to put your name in the hat, there's a forum in the P1 Discord. You can find it there. It's also in the IndyCar Discord, and I'm sure I'll be posting that more than a couple of times here in the next couple of weeks. I believe we're going to close off entries at the 1st of June. So we want to give everybody the opportunity, but you can look for that form on the P1 Discord. And we're going to start 43 Indy cars in that deal. And whoever can make it 600 kilometers the fastest at Michigan, and that's a haul. They'll be crowned the winner. There are no rules other than you have to obey the sporting code and you can't pass below the white line. Other than that, I expect to see some tremendous racing.
So that'll be the P1 600 on June 7th at 2 p.m. That is Saturday, June 7th at 2 p.m. right here on P1. Be looking for it when we go ahead and schedule that stream. We're at lap 160. We have reached the 400-mile mark here at Indianapolis. And we are in the middle of a fuel-safe battle as we are trying to get to this last bit. If they can get to 65, is that close enough? Where do you pit? You got to pit when you got to pit, Jacob. I get that. But where do you pit? Do you try to get the 65 and then try to go 35 at that point and then be done with it, or what?
Well, my thought would be you stretch this first one as long as you can, right? Because, you don't know if or when that yellow will come out. You'd rather pit as late as you can here. Obviously, we're talking 35 is kind of the upper limit of the fuel window. You come in, make your stop, fill it up as much as you can, and try to sprint to the end, because you're going to need all the fuel you can get. But, you never want to be the first car to pit, seemingly, most everywhere we go, because that kind of puts you at a disadvantage, because then the cars in front are going to cycle back to behind you, maybe have slightly fresher stuff, just depending on how long you've been out there, But I think in the case of these long fuel mileage races, you're going to have to basically run it for all she's got and do it again. I mean, especially with as tight as we are in that fuel window, it's going to basically be who can save the last drop to cross the line.
Matt Taylor coming to pit road. Not sure if that is scheduled or just because he was having damage from hitting that wall a little bit earlier, but he is making his way down for a stop.
Gary, just to drop in on the fuel thing, and when you're going to see pit stops, this is where having a teammate, or in the case of the Hyperslide, the Power Slide, private label guys, this is where having a team is hugely helpful. We know Seb's got a teammate up there. Rashad Craig's, he's moved into 7th now, so he's in contact now. We've got Jaden Munoz peeling off. So he's not, he's going to have to go a huge number of laps, and he was awfully close on the pit speed limit. But this is where having a teammate can help. It doesn't matter where you stop if you have a teammate, because you can slingshot back and forth, and you can go faster that way than you can sometimes just out running around leading the group. So kind of keep an eye on that.
Do you recall what Rossi's save was in 2016? It was something like 35, 36 laps.
I don't remember what I had for breakfast. Do any of you guys know?
Yeah, I mean,
I know somebody who does. Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia.
There you go. I think it was 36.
It was a long way, and I remember being in the North End that day, and you could hear him pulling in the clutch and
I was up there with you. I was like, is he even under power? But I mean, just to make it that long, he was obviously way off the pace at towards the end of that thing.
The funny thing about that run that I remember is I was listening to the TV broadcast in my headset. My dad was listening to the radio broadcast. Everybody in the grandstand knew exactly what was going on, and neither the radio or the TV picked it up until like 2 or 3 laps to go. Yeah. We've got more takers.
Yep, coming to pit road a little bit further on back. I think that is Kelly Dahl and the players throwback there.
Now, I think you got to make it probably one more lap to even have any kind of a shot here. Gary, I think you got to make it 34 to go, and you're going to have the
I see. I think Vasquez has decided to stop following Ruse. I think he's going to push here on these final couple of laps here of his run. maybe even come in now and not have a car directly behind him for position. And that's exactly what is happening as Ruse comes very close to making contact with Vasquez. This could be a final stop here for all these drivers right here. And your teammate, Seb Alexander, is coming to pit road with his teammate, Rashad Craig.
Rashad Craig, instead missed his box. He slid through it.
That's, I think it's twice. Well, he had a front wing issue earlier. That's twice that he's had a long pit stop.
Yeah, so he's not going to lose the draft. He's just going to lose track position, but that's a costly mistake for Seb Alexander. Meanwhile, the control of the race now passes to the power slide team. Kraus, Van de Zandt, Brophy, Malechka, they're all in this lap. So they went one lap further, and that's just that much harder that they're going to be able to race here at the end, 33 laps to go.
So chat says, Google says 36 laps, and I want to tell you, 30 laps is pretty comfortable to do here. 31 gets a little harder, 32 a lot harder, 33 really hard, I think, to do. 33, 34, 35 is really hard. 36, very few people can do 36 under race conditions. And here comes Alex Van de Zandt, and he is 39.
Yeah, and if you're looking at somebody that could do it, that's in this group, it's the number one. That's Robert Malechka, the king, the king of everything, as we call him. If there's anybody in the field that could do it, it's Rob.
Alex did it. Alex did 39, coming to 40, so he did 100 miles on this tank.
Right. Now, here's the problem. So the power slide cars, that group that stopped the lap before. So Seb sliding through his box, that didn't really hurt him all that much, right? Because he's going to come out in this group ahead of Brophy and all of them. So it didn't really hurt him that badly.
Well, here we go. We're going to reset the field, and it is now officially a sprint to the end as we are coming next time by to 170, 32 go. Munoz picks up the lead, and he has himself a 0.4 of a second lead over Aaron Vasquez. Vasquez is just ahead of Soria. And the interesting thing is I would call Munoz a semi-regular in these cars now. I think since the Butt Kicker Series, he's kind of driven these cars a little bit more. Vasquez, not a regular in these cars, although doing pretty good through his, we saw him in the fixed 500, and he's doing obviously pretty well in the open 500. Soria is a community member, but we kind of only see him in kind of like the really big races anymore. Kraus, he's kind of more on the butt kicker side of things, but you kind of see him in the high-profile races. He's now catching this group. Alex Van de Zandt, you see kind of on a more regular basis, but Rashad Craig also on a more regular basis. So kind of at the front, directly at the front, I would say semi-regulars, and then kind of past the top three, kind of I would classify them as guys that you can kind of almost count on a regular basis to see them in the lineup. So it's an interesting group of drivers now in this top six.
I mean, it is. Jaden Munoz has won several of our Monday night broadcasts. It's always awesome to talk to Jaden and the Williams Esports team. We don't see Aaron Vasquez or Jose Soria that much. Phil Kraus has been he's won a few, so he's been on our broadcast before. Alex Van de Zandt, well-known regular, especially at the short tracks. You want to talk about a guy that is
here we
dynamite
go.
At Richmond.
Oh, he took a big shot on PK and goes to fourth there. He did not wait very long, and he was very aggressive on that pass. But yeah, someone that's really good at the short tracks, that's Alex.
It is Alex, and the thing about Alex right here is he has a huge advantage over everybody else around him because he went so long on that last fuel run.
2P2.
Everybody else is going to have to save fuel. Van de Zandt doesn't have to save near as much. He still has to save a little bit, but his run to the end is 32 laps. Everybody else, like Jaden Munoz, my goodness gracious, he's going to have to go 37 laps, and I don't know if there's enough fuel in that Williams to do it. Alex is smart enough to know that, and I bet it would take I bet he wouldn't pass Jaden Munoz for a hefty bribe right about now, boys.
You could not pay that man enough money in the world to pass that car.
No. Now watch him make a liar out of him. He's probably watching and he's probably going to pass, but there's no way Alex is going to do anything to go by Jaden Munoz. He wants Munoz to run out of gas.
Once again, if you're just joining us, we are in the late stages here at Indianapolis for the 9 p.m. Eastern time slot of the Open Indy 500, the first race of the weekend. This is the top split fastest qualifier race, 27 to go. Currently, your leader is Jaden Munoz. Make sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel so you'll miss out on the next race. Also, don't forget your commentary team by sending a donation via our GoFundMe campaign. The link is in the description. It's also pinned in chat. You can also send us super chats as well. We do this for free for the community. We'd appreciate it. Any donation, no matter the amount, is greatly appreciated. Also want to thank Topia Systems for being the presenting sponsor of tonight's race. From custom rigs to powerful pre-built computers, Topia delivers top-tier performance without all the sticker shock. Built with premium parts and backed by a team that really cares, every system is tuned for gaming greatness. Topia Systems, bill right, price right, game on. To learn more or to get your own Topia system, you can check out their links are in the description. I run a Topia system, so if you like my graphics, you can expect that or more when you get your own Topia system. To the lead, Alex Van de Sant.
So he didn't have a choice there, Collins. Jaden Munoz pulled over, hit the brakes. I don't know if you guys saw that. The other thing that interests me is I was riding on the roll bar with Alex. He was following Jaden Munoz in fourth gear, which you don't see very often at the Speedway. As soon as he went by, he turned the wick up and he has gone to full chat. The lap time dropped half a second once Van de Sant went to the lead.
Let's watch here real quick from Munoz at this point. I rewound a little bit, and I want to listen to Munoz.
Yeah, he pulled over and let him go.
Yeah. Does he just roll out of it? Yep.
I don't know. I was on board with Van de Sant.
Yep. He just, he's playing with the throttle, let him go. Yep. Watch it again. Just listen. Again, this is... You hear it? Yeah.
The strategy of Indianapolis, right?
Back to live TV. Van de Sant, Jaden Munoz, Vasquez, Kraus, and Soria now battling for position back out of 3. And then once they get that sorted, Brophy's going to start attacking. He is right there. Right behind them is Rashad Craig, then Borda. We've not really talked about Fernando Borda. He had a moment early on, right before that first caution, where he lost his front wing, and he had to go to pit road, and that timing was fortunate because he was able to change that wing on pit road under caution. Then there's Seb Alexander, then Milechka back in 10th. And unfortunately, Milechka at this point with kind of 20 to go is kind of losing touch with the leaders. So can he pull a rabbit out of his hat back in 10th and drive forward without a caution? Can he do it? We see a car peeling off for pit road a little bit further on back.
So I gotta kind of ask my booth mate on Wednesday nights. We get the wreck in here. Who do you like here with approaching 50 miles to go? Van de Sant's got the most gas, but he's also in the lead. Ryan, what are you thinking here?
Oh, Kraus.
Should we make it to the end of the green? I feel like I have to favor the current leader, Alexander Van der Sant. Like, we saw, over the course of many races here that there are very few places you want to be other than the lead. it's second place. You have to be within like the first couple of cars to really have a chance under green the rest of the way through a race at this stage.
What do you think, Jacob? Call your shot.
Give me Kraus. If he's here at the end, I think he's got it.
Whoa!
Yeah,
Munoz. Dave, you don't know a lot of these names, so you've only kind of evaluate them with what you see here. Who's your shot?
I gotta say, it doesn't even matter about the names right now. I'm looking at the formation, and I'm saying if you're up in front, maybe it's to your detriment. I want to take Jason Brophy here. He's up in the main pack, but he's not going at it toe-to-toe directly. Play your cards a little bit more safe, on the safer side right now. There's 20 laps to go, and I think he's in a position well enough where if he makes the right moves at the right time, he can get back up there.
It's only because Dave ain't seen Jason Brophy drive yet.
I'm going to go with PK, and way to go out on a limb, Gary. With PK takes the lead here.
Yeah, I just don't see how Jaden Munoz makes it to the end on fuel, and there's just too many power slide cars up there now. But I'm also with the wreck. I don't think that they make it to the end here. Those guys are battling like mad back there. Somebody's going to bounce off of somebody.
You think the elbows are out right now?
They're getting there.
Give it another 5.
I don't even think that. I think you got to give it till.
Oh. Borda in the wall in the short chute. He lost the position to Alexander, lost the possession to Malechka, back to 9th now. He just looks like maybe have lost a little momentum now into the clutches of Rashad Craig. Rashad Craig to the inside. It's Brendan Lichtenberg as Rashad Craig goes way up high.
I'm not going to say the elbows are out yet. I don't think we're really going to see the knockdown, drag out stuff until 25 miles to go. But they're getting there.
Here's Brophy to the inside. He gets around Soria, slides up.
Now, the great thing for Brophy here is that there are no more pit stops left, as the inside community joke goes.
Yes. Brophy in the pit lane, a thing he can always win.
Shots fired as he's going to go 3 wide, 2 wide, into P2. I think he surprised Alex a little bit.
Yes, he did. Now, we got to remember that Power Slide was born out of the merger. The current iteration of Power Slide was born out of a merger of Team Talent and Team Talent, Private Label, Team Hype, and Power Slide. Well, Kraus and Brophy were on the Private Label side of that, right? So they've always been around each other. Van de Zandt, yes, they're technically on the same team, but Van de Zandt was on the Power Slide side of that house. And so... Yeah. Same team, but different branches, right?
Here comes Alex on a run of his own to the front and to the lead. I tell you, if Robert somehow gets up there, and there's still time, if Robert can somehow get up there, they will lock out that top 4. They will absolutely 100% lock out that top 4 from anyone else getting up there.
I think Rob is playing his cards close to the vest here, Gary. I think he's not going to go until there's 10 to go. He was looking at Seb Alexander going down the back, and you saw him lift out of it and pull back in. I think he's waiting.
We'll ride with Rob. Rob not happy last week in the fixed race. I think it was him and Munoz that got into an incident on the front straight, I think. Oh! Munoz into the wall off of 2. And that's going to open the door for 2 positions to be lost. Robert to the inside of Seb. Seb hanging tough on the outside.
Oh.
That's tight.
Edge of your seat stuff.
Here comes Brendan to the inside.
I got to apologize to the fans and the people watching.
Big run, big run, big run, big run.
Munoz hard in the wall. We're going to crash behind him. We're going to crash behind him.
It's Zach Rinker.
Miller and Rinker get together.
No caution.
Rinker hits the wall and they get glued. Nothing Alex could do.
Yeah, Alex just gets some. Actually, no, not Alex. Yeah, you're right. And bad net code.
Meanwhile, Milewska has gotten past Alexander. What I meant to say was, if it sounds as though we're referring to these drivers by first names and on a very familiar basis, it's because we race. In the case of Jacob and I, we race against everybody that's in this top 7, more or less weekly. So we're friendly. We may be adversaries, but we're also, it's a community, and so we're very friendly with each other usually, at least in public. And so, these guys, we all know each other pretty well. You know what I mean?
But behind closed doors, you're all are bastards.
You should see what we say you should see what we say about Gary behind closed doors.
I know what people say about me behind closed doors. I don't need you to tell me.
Meanwhile, Brendan Lichtenberg trying to get underneath Seb Alexander. These two need to get in line, though, because Milewska is now latched onto that top 6, and he's looking underneath Soria now for 5th. Rob's going to be worth the price of admission here. He's need to go to the front.
Yeah, it's moving time.
Let's not forget everyone's first summons to the old beef court.
Yeah, that was you for running me over at Dover.
Sure.
I'm going to be an old man someday sitting on a porch with a glass of bourbon, one ice cube, and a fishing pole in my hand.
Look.
And Collins is going to come up to me, and I'm going to say, "You remember the time you ran me over at Dover 40 years ago, you son of a gun?"
Look, we've all done it. We've all made dumb moves. Oh, Lichtenberg gets a little bit of a up close and personal with the turn 2 exit wall. A little bit of a kiss there.
Now, to point out what they're doing at the front, boys, Van de Zandt and Kraus are playing nice. They're swapping. That has the effect of calming the field. The win may be decided on when those two decide to stop playing nice. Because when you swap like that, it prevents third place from really building any sort of a run.
Yeah.
It also throws dirty air at P4, so they really can't build anything either. It just kind of settles the field down.
That's also the
going to decide who's going to win. Yeah.
That's also the case in real IndyCar racing. The top 2 can pretty much easily swap the position back and forth. It's the third car line often is the one that I don't want to say suffers, but just really can't get a run on that group. Unless you're Joseph Newgarden, I guess.
That's true. I was speaking earlier more about the tendency of race car drivers to be like elephants. We never forget anything.
We've talked about that. I asked Ryan, how often do we forget things?
Get all the good stuff. The bad stuff stays there forever.
Yeah. And Jacob says that, yeah, you never remember the good stuff. The bad stuff, yeah.
I mean, I can't remember what I had for breakfast. So when do we think they're going to stop playing nice, guys?
5 to go.
5 to go.
5 to go.
3 to go.
5 to go, yeah. And they're coming up on lap traffic. Eric Troiano not too far down the road from these guys. And if they start impacting, that dirty air starts to impact the leaders, and they've been up in clean air this whole time, that's going to, I think, open the door a little bit here for some players. Oh, my gosh. Vasquez about ended up into the turn 2 wall in front of the Riley Children's Hospital suites.
Yeah, it's starting to get fun. The wind is out of the southwest, so that's going to make you extremely loose coming off a 2. It's blowing at your backside coming off the corner over there. The track is nice and toasty, 119 degrees, Gary. The air isn't, but the track is hot. It's greasy. It's well used. There's not so much grip, and the tires are approaching
26 laps old, yeah, and they're to that lap traffic now. Troiano
letting them through.
Troiano is a big oval veteran, so he knows how to do this. Letting him on through.
Yes, he does. That's a winner in the Elite Racing League, by the way, and a guy that is very well known to all these other competitors. But that has split the front two from Jason Brophy.
So we're going to get to the final 5 laps here. It's Alex Van de Sant, PK, Brophy, Vasquez, Soria, Malechka 6th, Alexander 7th, Brendan in 8th, Borda 9th, Craig in 10th. Unless there's a late caution, it's going to be down really between these two, maybe 3, with Brophy joining the picture at 5 to go.
How long do they play nice? How many people come back, you know?
Yeah, when they start really racing, that's going to open the door for Brophy to kind of start pecking away at it. There's still time.
Well, and I think that decision, guys, and Rec, you might have more insight on this. You've been around these a lot more than I have in these big positions. When you start playing nice impacted by how far back P3 is?
Yes, because you know that as a leading pair, you're going to start bleeding distance to the cars behind, and you want to feel like that worst case scenario. Should I lose, I'm only losing 1 position.
Oh, and also, again, going back to wrestling terms, I would rather go 1-on-1 rather than a, fatal 4-way, triple threat or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you know what they say about triple threat?
I'd rather have a 50% chance.
Right. You know what they say with the triple threat?
33.333.
You know what they say with a triple threat match or a fatal 4-way? The champion doesn't need to be pinned to lose, right? Yeah. So if I can lose a position and lose the race, and I haven't done a thing, and I don't. Yeah, and here we go. We now have a qualification run to finish this thing. Now coming to 3 to go.
Brophy now only 6/10 back. It's about 2/10 for what it was about a lap or 2 ago. So it might get close depending on how these runs get timed out between Kraus and Van de Sant.
And there's lap traffic in front of those two. And they are almost to the draft envelope with the cars in front. Okay, one's going to get out of the way. There's still going to be one up there.
And that's Jaden Munoz, and that is not an experienced oval driver. So keep an eye on that. 2 to go.
And he might be trying to save fuel to get to the end because they are catching him rather quickly. Unless he's had some damage on him.
No, he stopped.
He stopped? Okay.
House to the bottom in 3.
I think they may play nice all the way to the backstretch, guys.
White flag in the air. This time by PK, Van de Sant, Brophy. Someone from Hyperslide is going to win this race. Who's it going to be? Side by side through 2. Lap traffic in front of our leaders. They're using that lap traffic to get on by. He pulls out of the acceleration and lets them on by. Alex stays in the lap traffic in the draft for the last minute, but I think PK has far too big of a lead this time through the north end of the racetrack into turn 4. Van de Sant might as well be a lap behind because he's not even close. And it's going to be PK who decided to play some warm-up games today, went to the back to the front, and gets the win in the 9 p.m. top split race.
Oh, a top three sweep is always impressive.
And let's not forget, Kraus started from the pole in this race.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like he was hurting for speed or anything. And just to let you know, there has been no time in the history of at least racing at the Indy 500. There's been times in IndyCar racing that Team Penske and some other teams have swept the podium, but there has been no time that a team has swept the podium at Indianapolis. So that continues to be a feat yet achieved by the super teams, but the super team right now in the IndyCar community, which is private label Team Hype and the Power Slide combination, they get the win and sweep the top 3 steps here of the podium for the 9 p.m. race.
It appears we were pushing Van de Nies's car around the track as he is out of fuel.
And here are your final results here from Indianapolis. Philip Kraus, PK, getting the win by 2/10 over Alex Van de Sant. Jason Brophy in 3rd, Vasquez in 4th, Soria 5th, Robert Malechka in 6th, Seb Alexander 7th, Brendan the Hyperstar in 8th, Rashad Craig in 9th, Borda in 10th. Andrew Marquez very quietly works his way up to 11th. Van de Nessa, he's getting the Tim Richmond treatment, I guess. Coming back to pit road after the checkered flag with no fuel. He comes home 12th. Munoz, Troiano, Taylor, Bonani, Dahl, Raker, Ruse, and Miller, your top 20. Walker, the Cat, in 22nd. O'Meara, 23rd. Russell, 24th. Jacob Oster, 25th. Mana, Vitor, Epps, Rafi, and Timmy. They are in the top 30. Mitchell Ian Green, Clindy, a race he wishes to forget, in 32nd, and Bruteau in 33rd. All right. I don't know if anyone wants to talk tonight. It is midnight. It's been a long day for a lot of people. So we'll see if anyone wants to talk. We'll bring them in. We'll get some replays queued up here regardless. All right.
Looks like now we got 2 of our 3 guys from the podium waiting for us.
Excellent.
I believe the 3rd one's coming.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Everybody's being real cool sports. It's a late night. We're almost at midnight on the East Coast. So we want to chat with these guys briefly. Allow them to get some rest because they got a big day ahead of them tomorrow. Not just another broadcasted race at 1 p.m., but I'm sure they'll want to watch Indy 500 qualifying tomorrow. So you got priorities. But let's bring up, and it looks like Mark is taking off. So we want to thank Mark for joining us on the broadcast. We'll bring up Jason Brophy here. Here he is, Jason Brophy, finished 3rd, started 4th, up 1 position there at the end. Kind of hung out in the black portion of the top 10 all day, but just really kind of hung out in contention. It really then turned into kind of a fuel mileage and a massive fuel save for the last 2 stops. But you got yourself, as the 2 leaders started racing there toward the end, you kind of pulled yourself a little bit closer, but just ran out of time. And 3rd place is pretty good, all things considering. Talk about your race. Congratulations, P3 here today.
Yeah, pretty happy. Obviously, as a team, 1, 2, 3, we made the good mileage on that first run. Alex still incredible at fuel saving, got the extra lap. So, and then I messed up a little bit out of the pit, out of the pits. Didn't let go of the clutch, but let go of my clutch release button, and so revved the motor instead of going, and almost lost us the draft. Had to kind of tow back up to it. That hurt my fuel number a little bit, and then picking through the pack, it was chaotic, but knew I needed to get myself into the top 3 and be there. And I didn't have the fuel that the other 2 had. They were, a lap better than me, so I had to be the 3rd car in line. And then just couldn't get there once I got the number. They caught tow with Jaden and a couple, Jaden I think mostly, and right at the end the people couldn't make it, and just I couldn't quite close the gap. So I'm happy. P3's good. Finished the race and learned a lot. Ready for tomorrow now. But still, you always kind of want to win it. So wish I could have gotten a little closer.
You're gonna get one. I know you will. We'll go around the horn here and have the rest of the guys ask you a question. We'll lead off with Ryan, then go Jacob and David. So Ryan, go ahead. You're first.
Well, since you're the first one of your teammates that we're interviewing, how does it feel to get a 1-2-3 sweep?
Feels really good. I think I honestly think the best drive of the night, ignoring the part where he hit the wall, was Rob finishing 6th with a broken side pod. I still don't know how he stayed up there. So, it really good. Car was good. I think we got a little bit we could change. Not quite sure on some of the adjustments we tried here. But still feel pretty good. I think it was pretty racy there at the end. Track started to come down. I kind of hope we get this weather tomorrow. Maybe wind's pretty brutal. I'm going to be honest, wind's pretty brutal sometimes out of 2. 2's really hard to get through. But I feel like the top may sound a little bit blasphemous, but it makes the racing more entertaining. Top came in there, especially as it cooled down a little late. So made it so people could make moves and get through the field. So do expect a bit of a stronger field tomorrow, right? It's the closest I think we've seen in Q ever, at least in the last since I've been running. So I expect a pretty big fight, and nobody's going to roll over easy. So,
go ahead, Jacob.
What do you think is the biggest takeaway going into tomorrow in terms of your approach to the race? Do you feel like this kind of changes your strategy at all? Where you guys plan on putting the cars early on, later in the race? Just general strategy.
It's tough. I expect it's going to be chaotic if there's a fuel save. I tend to like to be the first car. I'd like to have that track position, even if I'm kind of gambling. There's going to be cautions. That's the hope, that I can stay toward the front. Right. Don't want to have to put myself back in the pack, and then especially with some of the chaos of those fuel saves. Right. You have someone a lap down, almost not a lap down, but leading in what seemed to be map 5 or a broken car. So that definitely concerned me. Some of the racing there, when that's happening, gets really scary. You get dive bombs, and it's not even that. So, but yeah, Phil has joined us.
And I guess Dave, you got any questions for Jason?
Just looking back on those final 20 laps there, went from that big pack of about 6 or 7 drivers mingling with each other, and then it strung out there, Jason. Now, of course, the big day is tomorrow as we keep things moving with our open festivities. You think there's something you could take from this race and bring to the table with regards to trying to push to make that gap tighter at the end of the race?
Well, I'm chasing 2 teammates, so after this, it was tough for me to close. I think I'd have been able to close had they been doing had we not caught Jaden's draft. Sorry, that's what I mean. Especially if they started fighting, right? I was getting closer and closer, and then they got Jaden's draft, and that pulled him away. It hurt him on the last lap, but before that. So, being top 3, you want to be top 3 at the end. I'm going to tell you that right now, unless it gets really cold, big cloud. You're going to want to be in the top 3 in that last run, and then that's the race. So,
shout outs, friends, family, sponsors. Anyone want to say hi to before we let you go?
Obviously, Team Hype, our team. So, kind of sponsor list at the moment. So
I'm sure you'll find someone.
Ty's working on Ty's working on some stuff. So Ty Stover, Tommy Milner for bringing me on. Obviously Phil, Rob, us 3 for this race, and obviously more than this race. So appreciate them. Given the opportunity to get to do the oval racing that I really like. So,
all right, best of luck in tomorrow's big race. 1, 2, 3 tonight. Not a bad way to start off the weekend. We will catch you at the next one. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That is Jason Brophy. Let's get up here Alex Van de Sant. And here he is. And here is Alex. Alex, congratulations, P2. I think you probably wanted the win here today. A little traffic there at the end might have played some games. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I guess my first question is, before we kind of go around the horn with everyone else, what happened with that incident in turn one? I think it was with Alexander. What, from your point of view, what happened?
Oh yeah, I mean the last time we were swapping and we caught traffic, I nearly had a fast lap, then the car pit on the front straight. So I wanted to take the lap again, but he was going to get it. So I tried to pass Russell and just to like learn what would happen and what my car could do. But blew the tools, pushed wide, and he got wrecked. So completely my fault. I've apologized. We're all good. But yeah, the main thing was just like to learn what we could do for tomorrow, and learned what I could do. So there's that.
Right. Best not to know. Best what to do, not what to do, I guess, for sure. Go ahead, Ryan.
When you and your teammates had control at the front near the end, what were you thinking in terms of the fuel save strategy? Because we ended up in a situation where it's seemingly everyone had to save at least a little bit of fuel.
Yeah, that was, I think, the longest stint I've ever done at Indy. I think
about 100 miles. You've been about 100 miles.
Laps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was good. I went longer than anyone. Yeah, I knew Phil had similar fuel to me at one point, and I was able to save a little more, so I knew I'd be probably okay. And Jason was in a worse shape than both of us. So when it came down to just like who was willing to push it more, and I actually ran out of fuel on the cooldown lap. Yeah, we at some point we knew we were fine, and we had some guys in the box like coaching us through and looking at our numbers. So yeah, it was just save as much as you can early, and so you have enough to push for those 2 or 3 laps at the end.
Go ahead, Jacob.
Kind of saw the lap traffic coming off turn 2 at the end there. Did you feel like there was anything you could do that last lap to maybe have a run at Phil again, or was the lap traffic just untimely for you to be able to make any sort of run happen?
No, I had to go for it. I knew if I waited, Phil would have the run down the back straight, and I wouldn't be able to get him. And if I went, I'd have dirty air, and Phil would. I probably just wouldn't be able to pass Phil. We would have been too close. Same thing that happened with Russell earlier, and it nearly did happen. I just about killed Phil. So yeah, just unfortunate timing. It was a little frustrating, like having him there. Yeah, I mean, I feel like he could have let us by a lap earlier, but you know, it is what it is. Some folks just don't know, but it happens.
And Dave, go ahead.
One minor difference between you and your teammates at the end of it was the exact lap you went down to pit road. You came in on the turn of 169. By that point, eventual race winner, of course, Phil Kraus, he was out on the racetrack again. So you think there's anything you could have done with regards to positioning yourself to pit road that would have made much of a difference?
No, I mean, I executed the pits pretty much perfectly all day. I guess if I had pushed a little harder, because I did have a little bit to spare. So if I had pushed a little harder in the laps leading up to everybody else pitting, I might have caught like all that traffic that was out on track ahead of us, but I missed by like 0.2. So if I'd gotten a draft on the in lap and maybe the lap before, that would have been huge. But it would have had me up there with the leaders that had already pit. And then maybe we could have spread out more, but I still had to save at that point too. So it would have been marginal at best. So where I came out was pretty much perfect. I was able to save a little bit as we all bunched up, and then just take control of the race.
Shout outs, friends, family, sponsors. Anyone want to say hi to before we let you go?
Yeah, just a big thanks to everybody at Powerslide, Jason, Phil, and Rob. They've all worked super hard this week, getting us in a really good spot for qualifying. I mean, this is by far the furthest up I've started. That was my best Q run at Indy ever earlier this afternoon that put me in P3. So extremely happy with that, and couldn't have done it without any of these other guys. So just it's all about preparing yourself for Saturday, and we'll see. See what we can do from there.
Of course, and the greatest hits history of fuel saves at Indianapolis. Of course, everyone talks about Rossi. We asked Chat what the Rossi run at Indianapolis on his last stint. It was 36. You did 37. So, and you did that while racing and not clutching and coasting, as far as we know. So, way to go. That was a pretty big feat. So, congratulations and best of luck tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
And that is Alex. And again, that was a pretty hefty feat right there. Let's bring in PK and talk with him and bring him in now. Here he is, PK, winner tonight. Extended test session, let's just call it that. Early in the race, kind of dropped to the back. How's the setup back in traffic? Apparently it's pretty good.
Yeah, I would definitely concur with you that we tested every single aspect of the setup today, including how well it slides through the grass.
About to say, you had a moment.
That was important. Turns out the inside wall is avoidable with a big slide.
Is. Talk about that moment. It was you and Brendan. So a guy that you race quite a bit. Just close quarters. Someone said you were on the phone. I don't know if that was true or not, but we'll talk about that moment real quick there on the.
But that's not pertinent. There was just a little air bubble. And,
all right.
Yeah, that grabbed him, pulled him down on the exit, and then we touched again, and that one was an actual touch, and that one pulled me all the way, like, half spin around.
Fair enough.
Cool, though. I probably used up all my luck again, because I did this last year, too. I crashed on last lap of the 500.
I guess you got to save a little bit for tomorrow. Ryan, any questions for him?
Yeah, my one question yet. So, as we've seen over the past month, no two races at Indy are the same, and today it came down to a last lap duel between you and Alex Van der Zandt, and it didn't shape up the way that we typically see finishes here, where nowadays we see the serpentine down the front or back straight. It seemed to be decided in the corners this time.
Oh, yeah, I just got decided by who got lucky with the lap traffic on the last lap, and I happened to get pulled around by Jaden, which meant that I didn't have to defend from Alex on the backstretcher in 3 and 4. If it was flipped the other way around, I would have been on the same end Alex was on, so not much we really gained from serpentining. It was better to just swap with one another and fight it between ourselves on the last lap.
Go ahead, Jacob.
What do you think's your biggest takeaway from tonight? Obviously, we kind of watched you and Rob do the call to run from the back, kind of charge your way back through the field. Do you feel like that might have helped get you a better idea of how you're able to kind of work the traffic as you come into the race tomorrow?
Yeah, there's a decent amount of temperature fluctuations during the race, and that's going to affect the racing you see quite a bit. So, no two races are the same, no two forecasts are the same. So, might be different tomorrow, might be the same. We'll find out. But yeah, if it's a little bit cooler, expect a lot tighter racing. If it's a little bit warmer, expect it to be a little bit more spread out.
Dave, final question for our champion.
Not only did you get to test out tonight going through the field by the numbers, but also maybe getting a better glance at the levels of aggression here. Now, we noticed, of course, it always turns up at the very end, but you think tomorrow anyway, you're going to approach that navigation differently with regards to how hard you push it?
I don't think the approach changes for the first 160 laps, 150 laps, but you'll definitely see a different level of aggression tomorrow than you did today in those last 50 laps if we don't end up getting stuck on a gig of fuel save like we did today.
Shout outs, friends, family, sponsors. Big day for the team. 1, 2, 3. Can't be too bad there.
Yeah, as always, private label team hype. Everyone on Powerslide Motorsports. Jason Brophy for making a Q set to put us on pole position. Obviously, Tommy Milner and Ty Stover, both co-owners of private label team hype. Always love their presence and the attention they bring. For lack of a better word, they definitely are, big names that outside of iRacing IndyCar. But yeah, big shout out to them. And then Ethica, Bar Visuals, and every other logo on the race car.
Congratulations, sir. Best of luck tomorrow, and we will catch you at the next one. But winner tonight, Phil Kraus.
Yep. Cheers.
All right, gentlemen. Final thoughts around the horn one more time. Ryan, pleasure as always. We've done 2 of these now this year. I think we've done enough for a while. Next 500-mile race for me is a little off into the future, but good to have you here. Final thoughts from the fixed and open side of things here for these last 2 weeks.
It's always fun calling finishes here at Indianapolis, and oh boy, I cannot wait to see what Power Slide shows up with tomorrow.
Fair enough, Jacob. First time in the booth here for fixed and open weekends. Been very beneficial to have you here. Your thoughts on last weekend, this weekend, specifically tonight? Kind of a race we saw that became a test session for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about kind of the usual suspects, and it's ultimately the usual suspects that kind of won out tonight, as was kind of the same case last week and fixed. It'll be interesting to see if maybe some of the more ringers or one-off appearance guys maybe learn some things today that can help them move up the field tomorrow, maybe change their strategy a bit, see the race play out differently as they always tend to do here. But it's always a pleasure to watch a race at everybody's favorite rectangle. And hopefully we'll have another good one tomorrow.
And Dave, only one we got you in the booth because of classes and other stuff for you, but good to have you here. We got you for the Open 500. Final thoughts on your one and only Indy in the booth, at least this go around.
A lot different from last year, but it shows all that work that goes on behind the scenes. You mentioned it's like testing, and it's shining that light and that research and development. I mean, these big power teams putting it all together, that's always so exciting to see. And that's something that exists maybe to a higher level in sim racing, perhaps, than even in the real world. That level of technicality, that precision from beginning to end. And I think that's just been raising the competition level year after year, even compared to when we did it last year, Gary. And it was so strong, the level of competition there. But even in a maybe less intense environment, more relaxed style today, you still saw drivers testing out what they're going to do up next. So this is a real nice prelude to what you're going to see tomorrow, that's for certain.
Yeah, IndyCar drivers have a history in real world and the virtual world. It's test, and more testing. So can never get enough laps in these cars. And we say it all the time, iron sharpens iron. So the more you put into these cars, the more you get out of them. Let's give everyone back their Friday nights. Actually, now it's your early Saturday mornings, and let's get on out of here. That's it for tonight. Once again, your podium for tonight's official Open Indy 500 top split with the top qualifiers. Phil Kraus gets the win going into the big race tomorrow. Alex Van de Sant comes home second. Jason Brophy completes the team 1, 2, 3. Enjoy P1 again this Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time for the Dark Horse Racing Series DW12 Series. Again, that's 8 p.m. Eastern right here on P1. And catch the venerable old DW12s as we head to Legacy, Kentucky. Don't miss it. Now, as you know, the YouTube algorithm game is not an easy one, so please help support P1 with the weekly grind. Leave a comment below. Let us know your thought on tonight's race. If you enjoyed tonight's coverage, support us by smashing like in the video. If you're new, click subscribe, and while you're at it, hit the bell for weekly reminders so I'll miss out on more of other P1's other iRacing programming. Tonight's coverage brought to you by Topia Systems. Topia Systems is a proud presenting sponsor of our Open Indy 500 coverage here on P1. Topia is where quality and affordability go full throttle. From custom rigs to powerful pre-builds, Topia delivers top-tier performance without all the sticker shock. Built with premium parts and backed by a team that really cares, every system is tuned for gaming greatness. Topia Systems, built right, priced right, game on. To learn more, check out their links in the description. Track cams for this race are provided by Whiplash Sim Cams. Get the most out of your iRacing experience with Whiplash Sim Cams. To learn more about Whiplash, like them on Facebook or follow them on X and Instagram. All the links you need are in the description. For business inquiries to learn more about P1 and what we do, like us on Facebook. You can follow us on X and Instagram as well. And also you can follow all of our social links on Linktree. The links you need are all in the description. So let's see. We got Justin Peschauer, who really didn't check in, but he's a part of our coverage as always. We have Jacob Collins. We have Ryan Eric King. We have David Kreutz. Everybody here at P1 and Topia Systems. I'm Gary Gatto saying to all good night and thanks for watching, and all of our men and women serving in the military and as first responders. Godspeed, God bless, and come home safe. Want to thank everybody for joining us these last 2 weeks, and we'll catch you at the next race when we have it here, right here on P1. Good night, everybody. And Mark Murphy, want to thank him as well. Good night.